Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Dire Wolf here for our weekly news recap from behind enemy lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. Alongside me is my co-host, Fox Trevize. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. I actually turned on my microphone this time for this intro. We have last week my super top secret intro that no one heard. But that's your loss because it was a good one.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad we're this time not having audio problems.
No,
hey.
It's an audio feature, not a problem.
Right. So we had an idea. You know, all these other commentators, they just pull up news articles and just report what they say without doing any kind of research.
Essentially zero effort, and somehow they have hundreds of millions of subscribers.
So what do you think? Should we just try doing that? You know, just give up all semblance of credibility and not actually verify statements we're making?
I'm not saying that we put no effort into the show. I'm just saying that we didn't put a lot of it.
But even with us putting less effort in today's show, as far as because it's easier topics, honestly.
Yes.
Well, a lot more of our opinions about something that happened rather than having to research raw data, which is nice. Occasionally have stories like that. But even with that, we did go through and verify things that we had heard and were thinking might be topics we'd cover, and we found out,
left some stuff on the cutting room floor too, didn't we?
Yeah. Like that was fake news. We'll cut that out. Oh, that's not verifiable. We'll cut that out. This thing was actually different than I thought it was. Here's the actual story. So we actually
or like that time when I accidentally guessed a military secret, and then you told me that we couldn't talk about that. So there's that one too.
Like you shouldn't definitely not bring up that thing that you guessed correctly by accident.
Yes.
If the FBI is listening, it wasn't me.
Does the FBI handle classified military stuff?
No. But you could go with the joke, goddammit.
Classic misdirection, Dyer.
Anyways.
Just like that time when you were trying to convince us that the spiders weren't trying to control people's minds.
Exactly. I think it's funny that we put a lot more effort into some people, into the research and the topics we're going to talk about than some other people. But you know what?
Yeah, some of these stories today are more self-explanatory, so we just react to it. More fun.
Yeah. Thankfully, this show has more of those stories, less required research, because I know what my opinion on this thing. I need to research my opinion on grooming, you know? Anyways, so as always, I want to thank everyone who makes the show possible. As viewers like you, thank you very much. For people who donate to us financially, Kaylet, Oriman, Nathan, Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Thunderican, the White Lion, Timberwolf, the White Wolf, Adder Lupus, all you guys and many more. Thank you very much for supporting us. And if you guys don't want to or can't support us financially, that's fine. Please take the time to like, share, subscribe. Go follow us on Rumble. Because we definitely are streaming there as well, and they are a better platform than YouTube. Fuck YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't even like us, I mean, go to YouTube. You can hit that dislike button. No one will know except for Dyer, and he'll feel it. He'll feel it right in his chest.
Yep.
Just like a kick to the nuts.
Yeah. And you know what would really show me is if you were to go and send us some rumbles on our video.
What you should really do, actually, though, is find clips of us that are controversial and then post them on Twitter and say, like, aren't these people terrible? And then we'll go viral.
Oh, yeah. Definitely shame us.
Yes,
try to get us canceled.
Links to the show, yes.
Yeah. Look how terrible these guys are being opposed to grooming. How dare they?
Awful.
Okay, let's get into our first funny opening comment.
This is not a funny opening comment. This is a serious, very serious news show, Dyer. So, Korean, just like the White House, the Biden administration is a very serious presidency. This week, the Korean pop group BTS, who personally I have honestly never heard of. until this week. They visited the White House to talk about being vapid and whether or not clones deserve human rights. Probably completely unrelated to the fact that they are all obviously clones.
It's like going to a computer AI and talking about whether or not computer AIs should be regulated.
Correct. Things got a little bit awkward when Joe seemingly forgot where and when he was and what decade it was. Here's the clip.
I blow a hole in your face and then I go in the house and I sleep like a baby. You can count on that. We used to stack fucks like you 5 feet high in Korea. Use you for sandbags.
Whoa. Oops. I'm sorry,
I think
guys.
that's the wrong clip there.
Yeah, our apologies. That seems to be the wrong clip. And the way that you can tell that it was the wrong clip is that Joe Biden was a draft dodger, so he never would have served in Korea.
Yeah, come on. Obviously, that was a giveaway because Biden was never in the military.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, that was awkward, and I'm
he did claim to
embarrassed.
be in the Navy, though, didn't he?
He did claim to be in the Navy this week. Or that was a week ago. Joe Biden did claim in front of the Naval
Without
Academy.
evidence.
Yeah, in front of the Naval Academy at their graduation ceremony, he claimed that he was, I guess, what did he say? He was nominated or like enlisted to go into the Navy, but he couldn't because he was a senator or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
But either way, that was an awkward mistake. We apologize here at Direwolf Media, and because of that, we're just going to move on to our next topic here. Because
after all that talk about is vetting our sources, right? Then you go and break that.
Yeah. So, what a story that's not fake news is Joe Biden has come up with a new plan for our ailing economy. As you are all aware, the economy is in dire straits right now, which for dire is not good. And so Joe has this week, the Joe Biden administration has this week unveiled a new plan, and that is to lie about it.
Great strategy.
Yes.
When in doubt, lie.
Yes. Let's see here. So I have I think a clip here. So Joe Biden, he claims that the average American is more comfortable with this economy than the presidency before. Other than, the mean tweets, I guess we would much rather have, baby formula shortages, $5 gallon gas, no diesel. I mean, you got expensive gasoline, but you just can't buy diesel anymore.
Yeah, just ask yourself before seeing the clip. Are you more comfortable than you were before Biden?
Yeah, we'll do. But put whether or not you were more comfortable in the comments down below. Dyer, are you more comfortable now than you were back then?
Well, no, for multiple reasons. I'm also no longer in America, where I have no freedoms and no rights. So,
well, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but also America is like that as well. So,
oh shit, you're right. So
you're not
I'd have
missing
the same
a lot.
Problem, the same difference, actually. Also, everything's more expensive, and I didn't get paid anymore. I don't know about you.
I mean, a little bit more. All right, so let's watch what Joe's new economic strategy is here.
After took office, families are carrying less debt. Their average savings are up. A recent survey from the Federal Reserve found that more Americans feel financially comfortable than any time since the survey began in 2013.
Did they just start the survey? I don't believe that. Does that describe you?
The only possible way that you could say that debt is down is if you looked at the adjusted inflation value of it. Which maybe, and then the only savings being up, I think that one's got to just be an absolute lie. Maybe they're looking at the M1, M2 money supply. So one of the things that happened during COVID was we switched a rule that was a longstanding rule that you can only make 6 transactions per month in your savings accounts because it's supposed to be like slow money. It's supposed to be stable money. Whereas your checking account, you can do much more frequently. And what they did during COVID to try to assist people was unlock their savings account so that you could make more frequent transactions in it. So the only thing I could possibly imagine that he means by savings are up is if they're now including the checking account volumes in the savings numbers, which would, I guess, quote unquote, artificially inflate it. But it just sounds like technically it's a lie because there is no such thing as a savings account anymore. All savings accounts are now checking accounts. Like there actually is no savings accounts anymore. So The only possible way that savings account volumes could be up is if you're just lying about it.
I don't think I know anyone who has more savings. Well, no one in my personal life that has more savings now. And if you do, it might also not the people I know, but it might be people out there who are saving because they are insecure in the economy, not knowing what to invest in.
Well, there also is the people who already were financially stable didn't fare too terribly during COVID. So COVID and the economic decisions made during COVID and since COVID, those mostly had negative impact on people who were already poor. And so like me personally, I've got an extra $600 a month in cash flow for the last 2 years because I don't have to pay my student loans. Isn't that great? I bought a ton of guns. I bought a house. I paid off my car. Like actually had and I got all these stimulus checks that I did not need at all. Anytime I can get some of my tax dollars clawed back from the government, I'm not going to complain about it. But you guys know on the show, like I'm not advocating for any of these things. I'm not advocating for more stimulus checks. I still got them. I'm not advocating for the student loans to be paid off or to be paused or anything like that, but I'm still benefiting from it. So like I've had tremendous windfall personally over the last 2 years of COVID. However, I don't need it. And I can see that the people who did probably need economic relief, all these policies are just absolutely crushing and devastating to them. So this is kind of that K-shaped recovery that the left was always complaining about under Trump, and then somehow that phrase that, I mean, when's the last time you heard K-shaped recovery, Dyer? It's not since Trump. Yeah, it's all of a sudden under Biden, that K-shaped recovery completely disappeared. And the K-shaped recovery where after the drop-off, the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. That's what the K is that the people already up above the waterline, they got higher, and the people below the waterline went lower. I think that's absolutely what happened. And most of that happened under Joe and is continuing to happen and be exacerbated by Joe Biden's policies. So he may be right that people with savings, their savings account went up, but that doesn't include people who just didn't have any savings to begin with.
That doesn't address the buying power of those dollars either, as that's been drastically reduced.
What's that?
The buying power of those dollars in your savings account has gone down.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, stuff's just like tremendously expensive now. And again, that's super inconvenient for me personally, but it's not, world shattering or ending. I think I would, I think just for the stability of the economy and the stability of the country, which again is that's kind of an intangible benefit that we have as civilians, right? It's just general stability. Maybe you're super rich, but if stuff's extremely unstable, then, well, it's not as much benefit to you. Unless you're really, really rich, like Pelosi or somebody like that. But I would much rather take the trade-off of not having had all of that windfall the last 2 years, have the economy be actually stable, and have not just civil strife barreling towards civil war and all of this instability politically and economically. As you were just mentioning, a lot of people are putting money into savings because they don't have anything to invest in, or they just literally can't buy something. So like maybe I'm doing a lot of remodeling on my house right now. So maybe I could be doing more remodeling on my house, but I'm putting some of that money into savings because month to month, I can't afford to do the full project that I wanted to do. I have to wait 3 months to save up to it. So yeah, my savings account's expanding, but that's only because I can't find things to buy. Even if I wanted to, some of the stuff that I need for my remodel, I just literally is not available. And I can't get it. So that's another reason why savings are probably going up. The supply chain's just totally destroyed. I bet you the parents who can't find baby formula to purchase
are saving money on
baby formula. Lots of people saving money. People who drove to the gas station to find the pumps dry, they're probably saving some money too, because
like the stat that marginally more people have more savings in their accounts does not capture the health of the economy or even the health of those households that have the additional money, right? It doesn't mean that your household is doing well when you're, by the numbers, you have more dollars, but your dollars are not going as far, right?
I'm sure a lot of people got life insurance payouts when their grandparents were murdered in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York as well.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of money entered into people's pockets due to what's the word, negligent homicide
Yes.
done by the government.
I don't know if it was negligent so much as intentional. I feel like negligence implies you didn't know what was going to happen, but you should have had a reasonable expectation. I think that they knew exactly what was going to happen. It sounds much more intentional.
I might have been far too kind in my description of it, but you get the point.
You might have been. But no, so as back to this clip here though, the claim is nearly meaningless, and to the extent that you can analyze it, it actually implies the opposite of what Joe's trying to make it sound like. If you were under the line, if you weren't doing good, you're probably doing way worse now. And if you were above the line, yeah, you might be doing better if you were pretty far over the line, but that inflation is catching up to everybody pretty quick here. And then even the wealthy, they don't know what to invest in. You got the crypto markets are all over the place. You've got the mostly down at this point. You've got the real estate market is pretty much at the peak. I would be surprised if the real estate market stays up for more than the next 3 months. I'm guessing probably by the election time, you're going to see a reasonable drop and decline in housing prices, probably leading into some kind of crash next year. There's a lot of economic factors pointing towards that. But there's just, you can't invest in real estate. You can't invest in crypto. You can't invest in the stock markets just tanking and expected to continue to tank. And there's just really nothing to invest in. You can't personally buy a house because they're still inflated values. You can't personally invest in just about anything that you want to buy because it's not available. You just can't buy it. There's nothing there. So yeah, I would much rather have, again, not had those windfall profits this past 2 years and then had a stable economy into the future. Whereas right now, the experts are talking about inflation possibly leading us into the next decade, having a lost decade, something like the Great Recession again, which,
Right.
if the experts think that it's only going to be a decade, I mean, maybe we'll have the next 100 years.
Yeah. So my point with this section is, you don't even have to really break into the legitimacy of his numbers to tear apart his claim that Americans just on average are more comfortable in the economy now than they were before Biden. It is absurd on its face. Everyone can look at the economy, look at their own lives, look at the uncertainty in their lives and with their jobs and with the economy, and realize that no, Americans are not more comfortable. In fact, a lot of Americans are more confused and terrified about our future. And and the experts are not saying, like, not just with this one, like, you can use data points to support a lie, right? Yeah. Like, oh, this one thing, if you hyper focus on this one piece of data, that seems like a positive, thus it's good. But that means you're ignoring all the other context that would show that no, it is quite the opposite of what you're saying. And the experts who are looking at our current inflation, they finally come around and say, okay, this is not transitory, this is not temporary. Yes, Biden's policies are causing inflation, and it's going to most likely lead to a recession or depression, and will be long lasting. And that's the fact. That's the reality that he's trying to lie about.
One thing that can lead to depression is gas prices.
Yes.
Which sounds like I'm about to do an ad read, but I'm not, because we're an unsponsored show. So I believe it was this week, the national average gas price is officially double since the beginning of the Biden administration, which is absolutely fantastic. Yes, I do remember paying for $2.40 gas towards the end of the Trump administration, and then now the national average is $4.84 on average. So
I paid just above $2. It was great, like like a couple pennies over $2.
Do you remember before COVID, in mid like summer of 2019? I think gas was down at like 170s in some places. It was insane. Like
it dropped to 160 like 9 in Texas.
That's crazy. Yeah, we were having 170s, and I was just like, wow, I could just drive to the moon and it would be free essentially. And then now my little Kia Sorento, I was just trying to top it off the other day, and it was like 6 or 7 gallons, and it was like $35. I was like, I normally could fill up the tank for not normally now, but like 2 years ago, I could fill up the whole tank for $35, and now that's just a quick top off because I'm trying to make sure I keep the keep the average price in my tank down by buying it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, the sooner you buy it, the best price you'll get, right?
Yeah.
Because tomorrow will be higher.
So gas prices are high, and they're only going to be creeping higher. Now, based off of Joe Biden's loosening or releasing oil from the strategic oil reserve, the numbers on that are about a million barrels per day. The U.S. consumes about 20 million barrels per day. So, if you knock about 5% off of that 480, so maybe you get down to like 430. Very generous, which if you know how oil barrels work, you know that a 55-gallon oil drum, only about 5 gallons of that is actually going to turn into usable gasoline, and that's across all the grade levels. So if you do all that division out on that barrel of oil, Joe Biden's probably responsible for it being about 3 or 4 cents lower than what it could be. So, if Biden hadn't done that and just dumped our strategic oil reserve, we could be paying for 485 gas or 487 gas. Wouldn't that be terrible? Instead of just at the cost of our military readiness, Joe Biden has dropped the gas price by 2 or 3 cents. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
he hasn't really, to any large degree, made life easier for Americans, but he did make us less safe. Yes. So thanks for that.
Another story on that too is that we're now releasing diesel from the strategic diesel reserve, which I didn't even know we had a strategic diesel reserve, and that's because we haven't released diesel from it since the 80s. And what happened? What happened during the 80s that we maybe would have needed diesel for? Oh, it was probably another gas crisis.
Yeah.
By Joe Biden's predecessor. Was that Carter?
Shit, I remember. I think it was Carter.
We'll go with yes. Alrighty. So another thing that I have noticed personally with the gas charts is that if you look at this graph, this is from Gas Buddy. I'm just going to pull up a better picture of that from the direct source here. All right. So you may notice over the last few months here, you're looking at the very right side of this this graph here, which is into the last few months here. There's kind of this stair-step pattern forming. And I noticed this the other day when I went to go I was driving past a gas station, and I noticed, I was like, oh, wow, it's only $4.65. Wow, that's great. Like, that's, man, that feels better. The gas prices are going down. And then I caught myself and I realized, Fox, you big stupid idiot, you're only saying that because it was literally $4.70 or $4.80 a couple days prior. And so what I'm noticing happening here is that we're going to start seeing, and you'll probably start noticing it too, we're going to start seeing real high spikes over the course of a few days into like maybe 50, 60, 70 cents spike. And maybe you'll have already noticed this, and you can see it in this graph here. Well, it'll be a real high spike. It'll stay there for a few days, and then over the next week, it'll slowly trickle back down, maybe tens of cents. And that slow trickle back down, psychologically, you're gonna be like, wow, man, gas is going down. That feels a little bit better. I know it's still high, but like, man, it feels better to see a lower number on that today than what I saw on it yesterday. And so you have... what you can do from a market psychology point of view is have, 3 or 4 weeks worth of every day it goes down by a penny or two. And so you've got 3 or 4 weeks of the population looking at that and saying, oh man, like what a relief. It's going down, it's only going down slowly, but man, what a relief. And so over the course of 3 or 4 weeks, it'll drop maybe a total of 20 cents. And then boom, goes up 50 cents. So what you're going to see is it'll be boom, 50, 60 cents up, and then maybe 20 cents walk it back. 50, 60 cents up, 20 cents walking back. So, you'll have 3 or 4 days where you're angry and you see that the gas price went up, but then you follow that 3 or 4 days of anger with a couple of weeks of, oh man, it's not as bad as it was yesterday. That feels good. But in general, you're going to start seeing the stair step pattern go up. And so I had a theory just based off my casual observations that there was a stair step going on, and then when you go and look at the graphs, you're starting to see that pattern play out. So you can see that big step in March, and then it trickles back, and then it goes zoom, scoops back up, and then it levels off, and then we're just this past week we had another big spike, and probably will be stable. My guess is that you're going to see stable-ish gas prices for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then right before 4th of July weekend, you're going to see some real big spikes, maybe the week or the 2 weeks before that, followed by level load. So I don't know what you can do with that information. I would say maybe if the gas price just spiked, if you can wait 2 or 3 days, it will probably come back a few cents. But essentially what this means is that whatever gas you buy today is probably the cheapest gas you'll ever buy for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it almost seems like if someone were controlling the prices, they were trying to get people accustomed to and okay with paying a higher price and not being too outraged over it. But I would point out, I'm pretty sure Biden released oil reserves in early March. And it looks like it corresponds to the drop in price. What do you think?
Could be. Hard to say. I would say just electing Biden had a large correspondence in the price there.
Oh, yeah. I think that had a corresponding effect to many bad things in our lives, prominently him being president.
Yes.
All right. So next section of this story is there is no baby formula shortage in Mexico. Were you aware of that?
Well, I mean, you say that, but think about the benefits for America. The silver lining is that American parents are saving money and the Mexican parents are not.
The same brands of baby formula that are available in America.
Imagine if those parents were buying all that baby formula. They might be driving inflation and not saving money, Dyer.
Well, how dare they want to feed their kids? You know what? They shouldn't have the ability to feed their babies.
They should just abort them.
Yeah, I mean, abort them at any age, right?
Exactly. Abortion knows no age.
So some parents living on the U.S.-Mexico border have noticed something strange, and they reported their local news, Texas News, that baby formula was well stocked in stores in Mexico, while just crossing the border to the U.S., shelves were empty in America. Weird. So Biden has caused a situation where American citizens are feeling pressured to travel to essentially a third world nation to buy the basic essentials they need to support their families. That is enough of an indictment on the Biden administration as any other.
Yes.
Also, Abbott Nutrition, the company that owned the factory that got shut down by the Biden admin in February, they have, after the outrage, raised the alarm at the Biden admin, they were able to get the factory up and running. It will be releasing its first product as of 20 June.
Which will, once it releases that first product, maybe a month or 2 months before it works its way to the supply chain, is finally purchased by a parent. Great. Not to mention, you will probably have government agencies purchasing up the beginning stock. They're probably one of the first in line purchasers for that.
Oh yeah, FEMA is the highest priority, right?
Yeah. So, and it's funny that Mexico has baby formula and the U.S. does not, because what baby formula we did have, the ICE bought up pallets of it and is giving it out to migrants from Mexico, probably fleeing the high baby formula prices to come to America, where the baby formula is free because there is none.
Couldn't we have just sourced the baby formula for the immigrants coming from Mexico
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes. Probably going to start seeing there's so much fentanyl in. I mean, why don't they start sneaking in baby formula? Actually, Crowder did
putting fentanyl in baby formula to give to migrants.
Yes. No. Actually, Crowder did a skit on that a few weeks ago. As Landau is taking on the role of a parent and went to go buy some black market baby formula, and they did a skit like acting like it was fentanyl, and then at the very, very end of it, Landau was like trying to test it to see if it was safe, and he goes, "God damn it, it's cocaine."
So they're both white powders.
Yes.
I can see the mistake. All right, next thing's yours.
Alrighty. So, Joe Biden is staring out a window. That's a story. So Joe Biden is still 500,000 jobs short of restoring the jobs that were lost during COVID. And that's not even including growth above that. So Joe Biden, his whole idea was build back better. But maybe we need to be focused on just building back to where we were before we start talking about building back better. It's pretty wild. He's had almost 2 years now to build back better, and we're still haven't built back.
That's also 2 years of not having a growing economy. Just trying to bring our economy back to where it was before COVID, and we still haven't got there. In fact, I'd say in some sectors we've moved backwards.
Probably like the baby formula sector.
Right, like during COVID, there was a shortage of supply, but there still was baby formula on shelves. And so the things unrelated to COVID, like the shutting down of that factory and having no plan to replace the production or get the factory back up and running, that is a completely Biden admin person problem created by people making poor decisions and having no direction in what they're doing. That is not caused by COVID. And then you could say the COVID losses also were completely due to individual decisions by people in their reaction to COVID that caused the problem. So government action causing harm, not the disease itself. I'd say the disease itself did far less damage than all of the government policies that magnified harm.
Well, and not to mention, you guys, just the wild incompetence of the Biden administration. There's stories coming out now, and there's some clips of Joe Biden coming out now that they knew about the baby formula shortage maybe a month before it was public news, maybe a couple of months before it was public news.
February.
There was a clip of Joe Biden talking about. He was asked by a reporter, what do you mean you didn't see the shortage coming? Like the CEOs knew, and Joe says, "Well, the CEOs knew, but I didn't know." Like, well, why didn't you believe them? Believe all CEOs, Joe. But no, I think that like many things in the administration, as to the extent that the media is going to allow us to actually take a look at this, actually report on any of these things, that whistleblowers actually come out instead of just being the Praetorian Guard for the administration. I think what we're going to find is that a lot of this stuff was perfectly avoidable, and it was just pure incompetence that caused it. Again, during COVID, it was pretty crazy how much it took to get our economy to slow down. Because the American economy was just an absolute bullet train under Trump. And that was only after 2 years of Trump. And it's really, really hard to slow something like that down. America's economy kind of runs fast and hot like that, despite the best efforts and best incompetence of our elected leaders. But Joe Biden has proved to be extra special in being able to slow some of that stuff down. And again, under Trump, the types of shortages that we were seeing under the COVID lockdowns were just supply chain bottlenecks, where it was like, Walmart has toilet paper, it's just in the warehouse out back, and we just haven't had time to restock the shelves. But like, there is toilet paper there now, and same thing with all the other products. Now the supply chain's so damaged that there actually isn't anything in the warehouse. It's just on the shelves, and that's it. And so that has happened under Joe, and has been caused largely by his, I guess, just incompetence and maybe malice in handling COVID the way that he did.
When Biden says he wasn't aware of something or aware of a problem, I completely believe him, because I don't think he's aware of many things. I think that it is unreasonable to expect a president to be aware of everything going on. He's supposed to have a good team, but of the things that the president should be aware of, the big rocks, the big problems, the overall picture and direction, I don't think he even has a grasp on that. I don't think he has a grasp on where he is or what he's doing. I don't think he can probably dress himself in the morning, to be honest with you. He barely can move and speak, and that seems like it's asking a lot of him. Now, as far as what caused this problem, he and his team were so incompetent, they didn't even submit a name for someone to lead the organization that was in charge, the FDA, of the administration, of the bureaucracy that shut down the factory. There was no one at the at the helm controlling the agency, and I guess the second and third in control weren't doing anything either. They were just sitting on autopilot doing nothing. So it is his fault.
If there's too many agencies for the executive to keep track of, then there's too many agencies. We need to start axing them.
Agreed, but if he's going to have all these agencies, he does have the responsibility of staffing them and having someone in charge who's going to, actually manage the program that's given to them, right? So he didn't take care of the thing he was responsible for, right? Even though it's, I would expect him to know the minutia of it, not having someone in charge. And that would then be able to communicate to him, hey, there's this big problem coming down the pipe. Maybe we should do something about it. That is on him, 100%. Not being aware of the problem shows you are incompetent.
Well, you're responsible for those that you're leading, right? So I mean, you're a pretty high up leader in your organization, and if your guys screw up, because typically, even if it was their personal screw up, you as a leader still have to take responsibility for having put them in a situation that they probably weren't capable of handling, not training them properly, not managing them properly, not doing the proper follow-up or explaining, or again, just picking the correct people for the job. Sometimes you've got to pick the correct people for the job. And Biden has the entire United States population, 360 million people to choose from, and he can't seem to find anybody competent to lead.
Nazi fags!
How dare you!
Exactly.
Juicy nigga.
Why would you do that?
Hey, Adder Lupus. He says that he is having a good Sunday. It was a good day to do some work on the car with his father. Well, that sounds fun.
Sounds like a good memory was made there.
Yep. Thank you for the $5, Adder Lupus.
Thank you very much.
Let us know in chat what kind of car you got there. Sounds fun.
Yes. So absolutely, his job is to manage people. A large part of it is putting the right people into the right positions who can then enact his vision without him having to take care of every single decision. And if you're not managing your people properly and you're not engaged enough to know about the big rocks, this is obviously a big rock. This is not the minutia. This is a entire nation affecting problem that this bureaucracy deals with. And the fact that he wasn't aware shows he is not engaged, and he's not aware, and he's not managing his people.
Yeah, he does not handle things that end in rock very well.
That's funny. So the next thing on this topic of Biden was that what Biden has actually done so far to address inflation, because he's saying regularly that he's addressing inflation, right? He's doing the best he can. He's doing everything he can. Well, let's actually talk about the actual things he's done and whether they've actually had any effect. Because if he's going to brag about all the things he's done, let's actually look at what those things are. First thing was, he gave tax dollars to certain seaports, key ports of entry, to modernize. "Quote unquote modernize." Cool. You gave some special interest groups some money. Has that panned out? I don't think so. Also, Biden, through his members of his administration, have changed how and where cargo is initially transported to when it leaves the ship. Essentially, they're making the cargo that was sitting at the ports for long periods of time. They're just moving them away from the ports, and they're sitting for long periods of time somewhere else.
Yeah. You remember those pictures of hundreds and hundreds of cargo ships just sitting off the coast, not being unloaded. Whatever happened to those? Oh well, they just shoved them 29 miles out to sea so that you couldn't see them over the horizon.
Right. So to clarify, so far, he's thrown money at the problem and then hid the visual indicators of the problem. Yes. That's what he's done.
Well, if you can't see the problem, Dyer, it does not exist, right?
Yes, exactly. So hide the cargo containers, hide the ships. Now there's no problem, right?
Hide that you pooped your pants in the Vatican, and then nobody's the wiser.
Exactly. If you just wear brown underwear, no one will be the wiser.
Exactly.
Rules to live your life by.
I mean, how could there possibly be a baby formula crisis? I can't see any baby formula.
Yeah, he's looking from the White House window, and he doesn't see any baby formula shortages, so it must not exist. It's a right-wing conspiracy. So the next thing he's done was he released a large portion of the strategic oil reserve, as we just covered, actually had very tiny effect as far as positive effect, but a massive negative effect in that it has made us less safe, less able to respond to threats. So That didn't really solve the inflation problem. And then the next thing he did was he invested time and money into investigating claims of, quote, price gouging, which resulted in nothing. Because that's not a major problem, nor is it a cause of the inflation. It's not addressing the actual problem. None of these solutions that we just listed here move the needle on inflation. Inflation has continued rocketing up despite his best efforts. And I do believe these are his best efforts. They're just feckless and ineffective. None of these solutions, quote unquote, addressed the root cause of inflation, which actually is Biden's other policies. And until he changes those, he doesn't change the cause of inflation. And even if he does change all of his policies right now, there's a very good chance that the economy can't turn that fast on a dime. It would take someone like Trump being proactive and not just stopping Biden's policies, but fixing them. And even then, it would take a while. We might have already lost a decade of economic stability due to Biden's insane policies.
And just to give you guys some sense here. So here on BLS.gov, you got the consumer price index. If you dig down a little bit, you get down into just the baskets of the fuel and the gasoline inflation. And you can see here is with fuel oil, we have an 80% increase in the last 12 months.
Sure.
And that's government statistics, so you know that they're padding the hell out of that. And I would imagine that some of the reason why that's not higher is probably because of availability. I mean, you can't have inflation on products that you can't buy. So some of the inflation is going to have a natural, limiter on it just by the fact that you can't purchase it at any price.
Yeah.
Like inflation 0. Well, yeah, we can't buy anything. But aren't you saving money?
Yeah,
yes,
I guess
but I'm hungry.
so. It's technically a positive.
I'm hungry though.
So his next move is that he's sat down with the head of the Fed to pressure them to raise interest rates. I heard from a very reliable source, Joe Biden, who never lies, that he was going to have an independent Fed. The funny thing is, he said after having the meeting with the Fed where he said, we are going to talk about strategies for reducing inflation. That's why we're having this meeting. That's how he characterized it. He says, my first plan with enacting these strategies for stopping inflation was to ensure that we ensure the independence of the Fed. So if you're ensuring the independence of the Fed, what is the point of you requiring them to come meet with you to talk about strategies for how you would like to fight inflation?
Yeah. And speaking of the Fed, I'm going to move the Janet Yellen piece back up here. Let's hear. So Janet Yellen, who is the Treasury Secretary, she used to be the Fed chair, which I believe
sounds so independent.
Yes, so independent. Yes, the Federal Reserve, which is a private corporation of banks, that also is a government entity due to the amendment the law that made that happen. I think it was the Federal Reserve Act. So yeah, they're supposed to be separate from the U.S. government, but also kind of a part of it. But there's supposed to be independence there. And so the Federal Reserve chair becoming the Treasury Secretary is kind of a bad joke. It's almost as bad as the general who presided over Afghanistan, then retiring from his military role and then taking on the civilian leadership role of Afghanistan again, which was Lloyd Austin. We have a pretty bad problem with that, where we're supposed to have a division between civilian and military or private and public leadership, and we just don't have that at all under the Democrats.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that he is having this meeting where he's clearly pressuring the Fed to not raise interest rates because after that he did this meeting right after they said they're going to raise them. And they put out a schedule for those raises. And Biden's like, oh, we can't have that. So he calls them to a meeting to pressure them. And this is, well, okay. So first thing we discussed during this meeting was they're going to remain completely independent. That's the first thing. Come on, you couldn't be any more obvious.
Yeah, and those interest rates getting cranked up is gonna that's gonna be devastating to the middle and lower class first, because rich people don't really need to borrow money. That doesn't really affect them. They certainly do, and they leverage that for economic benefit. But if all of a sudden the loan becomes expensive, they don't need to. They just benefit greatly when credit is cheap. However, for the middle class and lower class, credit is kind of live or die by. And if all of a sudden your credit interest rates, if to get a car loan it's not 5% but it's 15%, to get a home loan it's not 3% but it's 20%, all of a sudden that just completely knocks you out of the game. You're completely knocked out of the game, financially speaking, and cannot recover. So while it's merely inconvenient for rich people, it's absolutely devastating for the rest of us. Now, your grandparents, they lived and probably purchased their home under a 20% interest rate. However, their home probably cost $35,000 for like a 3,000 square foot home. So, 20% interest is a lot, but on $30,000, it's not as much. You are probably going to, if you don't buy a house in the next 12 months, you're probably going to end up paying 10 to 15% on your mortgage for a $300,000 1,000 square foot house. That's probably
hope
what
you had
you're
a
looking
fixed rate if you did buy a house, by the way.
What's that?
I hope you had a fixed rate if you did buy a house, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, the APRs are a scam. That used to be a thing when interest rates are high, but when interest rates were low, like they have been for the last 15 years, adjustable rate mortgages are an absolute scam.
Yes, absolutely.
However, when they start creeping back up, that advice will change. Fox is not saying to go out and buy a house right now, but you might want to consider it if you ever want to live in a house.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to advise anyone to do anything in this economy because it's not acting rationally, because the government is picking winners and losers and affecting the economy in illogical ways.
I'm continuing to be a big stupid ape and buy crypto, so that's my strategy.
I mean, it's currently at a great sale right now, right?
It is at a great sale price. I think that great sale price is going to get better. I mean, it's going to keep going down. But for right now, it's stabilized a little bit the last week. But yeah, I've been continuing to dump my excess.
The risk-reward ratio is getting better every day, is how I'm going to put it.
Yes. See, my problem is that when I first got into crypto, I bought in at peak, and it's probably my fault that the whole market crashed, because some of the coins I bought, like the first coin I bought of it was like the highest it ever was since. So I'm very good at timing the top.
I know a guy who he was just talking to me about trades, and he was trying to make a purchase, but he accidentally sold $10,000 worth of a coin.
Oopsies.
During our conversation, it was totally by accident. He took a huge loss.
Yeah, see, you're not down until you sell. It's just on paper. So, like, on paper, I lost a bit of money this year, but I haven't actually realized any of that loss yet.
Exactly. You could always get it back.
Yeah, those diamond hands. Diamond hands. All right.
Exactly. So next story.
Yeah. So back to the Federal Reserve. So while Joe Biden would like to have the Federal Reserve be independent, it is under new leadership right now because Janet had to take on her job at the Treasury Secretary. But the Treasury Secretary is not doing so well with their independence either. They apparently don't know what they're doing, which kind of makes sense because Janet Yellen did not know what she was doing under Federal Reserve Chair either. Here is Janet, old Janny girl, explaining that she was surprised about inflation. Let's watch.
I mean, you lied.
I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy
unanticipated
that have boosted energy and food prices, and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I at the time didn't fully understand.
What do you mean you didn't fully understand? You have one job, and that is to understand the economy. And I didn't fully understand. There was anomalies I couldn't see coming. Anomalies like Joe Biden picking Pete Buttigieg to be the transport secretary and him totally just absolutely devastatingly doing a terrible job at that. The guy who was famous for not being able to fill potholes in what was it? I can't remember what the town that he was from. He famously could not fill in the potholes in his town as mayor, South Bend, and we pick him to be Treasury Secretary, or to be the Transport Secretary. And of course, we're going to have supply chain bottlenecks after that. You've got the Biden administration just willy-nilly shutting down oil drilling and oil pumping. Now, also willy-nilly shutting down baby formula refineries. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, you've got China, who has shut down most of their production and is clearly an adversary of us. You've got Joe Biden doing these adventure wars in the Middle East and in Ukraine now, toppling regimes, but doing a terrible job at it. And all of a sudden, Janet Yellen is like, well, it was hard to anticipate that, these things would be managed so poorly. It's like, well, I don't know. I think some of us saw it coming. I think Dyer and I saw it coming. I think that we did.
A lot of people saw it coming.
Yeah, I mean, the janitor at your local Walgreens saw it coming. So I don't know that it required any particular expertise and financials to see this coming. I think it required a particular arrogance and a particularly high level of being an idiot, technical term, to not see this coming, and or they did see this coming and they didn't care. Perhaps,
yeah, there's two
this is great reset territory.
There's two explanations for why she would say what she said. And you'd have to assume either she can't understand basic economics, and to the degree that we are not as educated as a economics professor would be, still able to understand and explain why what was driving inflation and how it wasn't transitory. You'd have to either believe that she is inept at understanding the economy, or you'd have to believe that she was lying and that she really is intelligent on and does know the economy, does understand the forces that worked here, and simply was lying for political gain or with perceived political gain, trying to support the Biden, to show she was loyal to Biden by supporting him. Now, I would not be surprised if Biden were to have hired a diversity hire who is terrible at their job. It wouldn't be the first time. However, I don't know if you know this, but she went to Yale University, got her PhD in economics. She was a professor at Harvard, and she was a professor for a long time at multiple locations before joining the Fed. And now it's either those colleges who gave out degrees where she was the professor probably should be rethinking those degrees. If you think that she really is this much of a moron, maybe all the students she taught are also ticking time bombs of being morons, or she's a fucking liar.
I think she's a liar.
That sounds more rational to me.
So again, just wonderful pick by the Biden administration. We also had Janet Yellen 2 weeks ago testifying before Congress that for some reason decided to spout off on abortion because that's well, she actually gave a reason why she thinks that's a topic that the Treasury Secretary should consider, because she said that outlawing abortion, the rolling back of Roe v. Wade, that would roll back decades of economic progress that women have been able to make. So, what you're probably going to see in the near future here is an argument that the rolling back of Roe v. Wade will be the reason why the economy is doing poorly. It's not because of policy or spending or anything like that. It's going to be because we outlawed abortions. And if you only killed more black babies in New York, then we too could have a better economy. It's been pointed out that, interestingly, Janet Yellen and the Democrat Party, they're not the first group in history to try to sacrifice babies for economic bounties. There were actually quite a few cultures, almost all of them throughout history, that also tried to sacrifice babies in order to, bring about better crop yields or better economic situations or to lord over their enemies, etc. So Janet Yellen testifying before Congress that she too thinks that the ending of human sacrifices of small children, that may cause the economic gods to look on us less favorably, and that will cause inflation.
Yes, and they're also not the first group that would say that stopping the treating people as not human because you want to harm them and use their bodies for economic gain. Because I don't know if you know from our previous video that the abortion industry is a massive industry where a lot of people are making money off of aborting babies, and that there is a lot of pushback to ending abortion because people would lose very lucrative jobs and the entire infrastructure around abortion, all the jobs
It
created
might drive
by
up
abortion.
unemployment.
But, the South made the same argument about slavery, that, we can't end slavery because it would hurt our economy.
Exactly. Alrighty.
Didn't make it
So,
okay.
what's up?
Didn't make it okay.
It did not. Though the South had a rather fragmented economy as it was. The analysis on that is pretty much there was like a very tiny 1% that was doing well, but the rest, the Southern economy was essentially
The same thing
joke.
with abortion. There's
Yeah.
a small, very tiny percentage of people. Like, I wouldn't even say it's a percent. It's a tiny fraction of people who are
Yeah.
actually profiting off of abortion. Usually, the ultra rich who are profiting off it. Not the rest of America. If you stopped abortion, some rich people would be less rich, but the average person would not become less
You
wealthy.
pull abortion out of the economy, and there's maybe a small hiccup every now and then for a few people. You pull something like, I don't know, oil drilling out of the economy, and all of a sudden everything comes to a crashing halt.
And then you're also assuming that, if abortion, the killing of your baby is not allowed, that people will not change culturally to, stop having unprotected sex that might affect their lives. They might be faced with consequences that change their behavior, right? Maybe the American culture would decide, you know what, for the sake of not, bankrupting yourself with a child you can't afford, maybe you should change your behavior so that doesn't happen. Would that be more rational than, say, traveling to Mexico or a back alley to get an abortion?
Yes. Alrighty. So we have. All right. So according to CNN, managing former vice president.
Sorry.
You want to read that part?
Yeah, according to CNN, former Vice President Brandon's social media accounts, managing his social media accounts, is a monumental task that requires 70 or more staffers. That's right. Biden doesn't manage his own social media accounts, to no surprise. It requires 70 or more staffers to manage those accounts. That's pretty funny when compared to how many people were required to manage Trump's social media accounts. It was just one person. Trump himself.
Let's take a look at that some of that social media here. Let's see if this is worthy of 70 people. Let's see here. In Texas, you can be 18 years old and buy an assault weapon, even though you can't buy a pistol until you're 21. Well, that just sounds like why not? That sounds stupid. Who the hell made that stupid rule? Should be allowed to buy a pistol when you're 18. If we can't ban assault weapons as we should, we must at least raise the age to buy the assault weapon to 21.
I refuse to acknowledge your argument because it's premised on the fact that you think no one should have any guns. This is an incremental step towards that.
Yes. These are okay. So here's what about inflation. So in less than a year and a half, we have achieved the strongest job market in decades. We haven't even achieved the strongest job market in the last 3 years, and the fastest decline of unemployment on record. Well, yeah. I mean,
you don't get.
I'm not even going to go explaining that one again. Fighting inflation
points for that.
Yeah, fighting inflation is a top priority, but Americans have confidence that our economy faces this challenge from a position of strength. Ooh, strength. Great. Well,
but it's not quite covfefe though.
Yeah, so that's that's a lot of man, that was a great use of here's Biden with the clones. Yeah, great use of 70 people there. I understand how difficult this formula shortage has been for families across the country. That's why we're using every tool available to increase supply.
Every tool.
Yes.
Hiding the problem, that's not helping.
Exactly. All right. So that's the this is what the kind of content that you're getting is pretty basic, pretty not spectacular, and mostly just lies. It's kind of more just disheartening to know that there's 70. It takes 70 people to lie like this, but okay.
Yeah. So it's 70 incompetent liars. Okay. In addition to since we're on the topic of Joe's social media, apparently Biden's wife Jill apparently argues with him over text. Sure, I bet this statement is. I bet that's true. I bet this statement in a recent Puff piece of Biden's was meant to humanize Mr. Brandon. He's a normal guy. He argues with his wife occasionally. It was an attempt to convince us that he is in fact not a lizard person or some sort of Weekend at Bernie's propped up corpse. Needless to say, if he needs 70 people to manage his social media, he likely isn't managing his own text. Just that's my guess.
There's actually a story around Joe Biden's text, which we did not have time to go into this today. That new Hunter Biden laptop revelations have revealed that either Joe or Hunter with Joe's phone was texting Joe's phone a Pornhub premium link to a porno video. Which was very interesting.
I thought it was multiple.
Yes. I think it was Politico. No, it was Newsweek, I believe. They tried to put a little caveat on that Joe and Hunter Biden share phones, which if you have a phone, doesn't really make sense. Also, accepting that for a second, then that means that Hunter was using Joe's phone to text Hunter's phone a porn link, which still would have been to his dad.
Is that not a security issue, by the way, having his druggy son having access to his correspondence that are often,
it is.
Secret. So maybe one of the 70 staffers includes his son. So more specifically, Jill Biden said that she and Joe hashed out their occasional fights via text message because they can't do it in person because he might not understand, human language. She described these text fights as fexting. Yes. Fexting.
That means you're having relations while texting, right?
Well, she meant fight texting, but as you guessed correctly, but in case anyone's not aware of it, fexting is already a word. It already had a meaning, a very drastically different meaning than fight texting. If you're wondering, it means fucking while texting. So Jill Biden says that they work out their marital problems by fucking while texting, which might explain the links he sent to his son.
Well,
or vice versa.
Well, that's awkward. Let's see. I am, if you don't mind carrying the show for a minute here, Dyer, I am looking for a clip that I want to play for us, but I am having a hard time finding it.
Okay. So the another thing on the top, another topic related to this is that there's been many reports by mainstream media that there's been extreme chaos in the Biden admin. Something's happening because all these stories have been coming out relatively recently. Just a couple examples of multiple stories would be ABC News saying on 31 May that inside a Biden White House adrift, referring to the Biden White House's staff being adrift without direction, implying that Biden is not at the helm and that people are without direction. Also, another topic was CNN on 3 June. They said, beneath Biden's struggle to break through is a deeper dysfunction among White House aides. So now we have the left-wing media referring to the Biden White House as adrift and in chaos. And
not that I disagree. It's just welcome to the club. It's always great when CNN is approximately 2 to 3 years behind the obvious truth. So welcome CNN. We
yes. it's nice that they realize, but the words that are being appearing in a bunch of left-wing articles, and they're joining the chaos. The chorus of articles that already existed on the right wing. They've been using the words dysfunction, chaos, adrift, and it's almost in unison. They've all changed their tune, and there's been a lot of questions about why. And see, these things existed when Biden was running. His campaign was adrift. It was chaotic. It had infighting. But the left-wing media back then sung his praises, hid his faults, and helped get him elected. Now that he's elected and he's destroyed our economy and is destroying our country, made us weak, left Americans to die in Afghanistan. Now, suddenly, when they see an upcoming red wave in the upcoming elections, now they're trying to avoid looking as though they had been on his side all along, hoping that Americans will have a short memory. I think we have a clip here to show what I'm talking about.
Dover has a detailed look today. You want to go to CNN.com and read it. That includes reporting that Biden and his inner circle have reams of internal polling and memos showing the messaging isn't working. The account is based on conversations with 14 White House aides and close allies of the Biden White House. And it includes this. They have the same internal meetings over and over, insisting that they need to change up their whole approach to how they're using Biden. And then, each time, watch as nothing changes. Isaac is with us. He joins our conversation now. So the piece is fascinating in that you get part of it is generational. Mm-hmm. You have some older Biden aides with some younger Biden aides. You have people who are just like Joe Biden and his approach aides to sort of the old, I'll call it the broadcast news way of viewing viewing media consumption. I'm thinking the ABC, CBS, right. NBC, the pre-cable world. Older aides dismiss the younger aides as being too caught up in the tweet-by-tweet thinking. Younger aides give up. It's tension.
It is, and it's all coming back to the fundamental problem that the president is obviously not where they want him to be politically and in his approval ratings. And you see that they are doing over and over the same thing. He gives a speech. They can't get him away from a podium. Another part of it is that the president himself, even though we all know Joe Biden is that retail politics virtuoso, slapping backs and doing all the things they used to do on the trail, he hasn't been doing.
Not saying kissing babies. You got to stay away from that one. Yeah. Because he does that too.
Doing any of that, he thinks of the presidency, now being president, as being about something else. About that if he can just, as one person said it to me, give a speech, he can explain it to people. If he could just do that, and we'll see him try to do that again tonight with his gun speech. Right. Also, another White House aide said to me, look, it's hard when he's talking about all these serious things to then have the next shot of him going and getting ice cream. It's all this going on, but it's just they know it's not working.
And so this is, Ron Klain is his chief of staff and a longtime aide and friend of the President of the United States. In a January memo, White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain offered a compromise plan to have Biden do one town hall each.
You got to imagine just the absolute psychosis of the older aides then thinking that the problem is that Joe Biden's not being given the time to stand up in front of the American people and explain in his own words. If he could only explain in his own words, America would just get it. I mean, I see what they're talking about with just like the psychoticness of the millennial aides, looking at the tweet by tweet. Like, it's very clear that they do a lot of stuff that's just, do it for the gram kind of stuff. That's just totally ridiculous and vapid and has, clearly no relationship to how effectively they're running the country. But if the counter offer there is that the older aides are saying, well, if only Joe had more opportunity to speak to the American people, he might be able to get his point across. Yeah. There is, I mean, of the two warring factions in the White House, then there is neither side has any clue what they're doing.
Both are insane. And now, yes. For another article I was reading, it was a statement from a Biden staffer saying that the problem with their current approval rating is that they need to get better at messaging, which is the same thing that Biden said during, I think it was a State of the Union, but he definitely said recently that the reason why he thought that his ratings were low is because he needed to get out there and message better himself. And that's
we need ace messaging like, Americans are more comfortable now than they were last year, and
what about
more savings.
Think about the meaning of that statement, though. He's like, people only believe what I'm doing is bad because I haven't lied to them well enough yet.
Yeah, well, or the idea would be that like somebody else is lying about the economy being bad, and I mean that's a pretty easy thing to debunk. Is, you know, what did you pay for gas yesterday? Oh, you know, it's not that somebody's lying. You're not being lied to that the economy's bad. You're experiencing it for yourself, and this is that issue with reality. Is that eventually reality catches up to you. Now, that was something that was said a lot during the last decade. It was kind of an old stumping point for the Republicans and for the conservatives. Is, you know, eventually reality reasserts itself. And I spent most of my my teen years, my early political years, waiting for reality to reassert itself, and it just never happened. And, you know, probably because of the way the internet works and its newness of the last decade, and the tips and tricks that they did with the economy after the 2008 collapse, it took an awful long time for reality to reassert itself. But reality, after 12 to 15 long years on hiatus, is finally coming back to reassert itself. And so people aren't being lied to that the economy's bad. The Republicans aren't lying to people that the economy's bad. They're just experiencing it because the reality has finally caught up to us. And there's really no amount of messaging that Biden will be able to come up with, or that 70 or 700 Twitter interns will be able to figure out to overcome that reality.
Did you remember, what was the number you worked out for? Like if their salaries were $65,000, how was their
money? So if you had 70 people working on his Twitter at $60,000 a year, which is probably about that's what they would be making
for DC.
Yeah. So you'd probably be looking at $4.2 million outright, but also you'd be looking at benefits and stuff like that. So you're probably looking at closer to $7 to $8 to $9 million a year for Biden's Twitter.
So $9 million, and what are you getting for that money? You're getting that useless shit on his Twitter.
Yes.
Like, that's what America is buying for $9 million. We are getting ripped off. Oh man, that is ridiculous. I don't think Biden knows what's going on. I don't think that he understands his policies, and he really believes that he can just spin it. But it's all he's saying is, I'm not lying to you well enough yet. And what he's talking about when he says I need a message better is more things like the first story we covered, like, oh, the economy is better under my presidency. A clear, obvious lie. And that's what he's saying I need to do better, is give more lies like that. And the thing is, American people aren't buying his shit anymore, so no amount of messaging is going to improve his approval ratings, because it is not about messaging. It's the fact that people are actually suffering. And I'm touching the fucking mic again. Sorry.
Never change, Dyer.
Why did I do this? I don't know.
Don't change on my behalf.
Okay. Anyways, people aren't going to buy his shit anymore. The next thing he's on the topic of Biden is that he proposed recently another gun ban in response to the Uvalde police mass shooting, active shooter situation. Now, the problem is, obviously, the Uvalde active shooter, that didn't happen because of guns.
They showed me.
It happened because the police let someone, a killer, have free reign to kill teachers and kids.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't it make sense that if a police officer who's getting paid with tax dollars and is sworn to protect and serve, that if they don't do their job to protect and serve you, mostly protecting your rights under the Constitution, if they fail in their duty to do that, that means that you just shouldn't have your rights under the Constitution.
Well,
right?
That seems like what the argument was, because the police actually spent far more effort preventing parents with guns, good guys with guns, from going in. So it looks like the police's job actually was to maximize harm. Now, I want to point out that this same killer could have used his vehicle to kill a bunch of people. He could have used a large knife.
He could have used a slow-acting poison at the amount of time that he had. I mean,
he could have used his fist to beat up fourth graders, for God's sake.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a gun to kill 19 kids and two adults over an hour.
And certainly not this brilliantly designed block.
Now, this is
block
what
19.
everyone should have. I think the military should adopt the Block 19 as a standard issue weapon.
Yeah, I have a lot of problems with the SIG. I think that it did not live up to the expectations that the Army had for it during the last review cycle, and I think that the Block 19 should have been given more consideration.
When I was asked my opinion, because I'm not an armorer, not a security forces armorer, I am. Never mind.
Security is everyone's job, Dyer.
Right, so not that kind of armor. When I was asked my opinion, I said I would definitely support changing to the Block 19 because, I mean, sure, 9mm can blow a lung out, but these can blow
There's no
your
reason to
feet
explain
off.
it. If they can't clearly see the self-evident nature of its superiority, then I don't know that you can explain it to them.
Do you not see the glowing yellow sight? Like, come on. I need that in my life.
You know what's funny is that the Lego material for the holographic sights actually what they use in real holographic sights, because it pulls in the light and then shoots it in one direction. That's what the Lego pieces do. They're actually like the same material.
So, yes, Block 19. Anyway, so here's a video on Biden explaining why he's opposed to 9mm.
And this video is, of course, in front of a helicopter, because where else would Joe do an interview at? You can't get him in front of a camera anywhere but him being in front of a helicopter. I do not understand that.
Because none of his staffers want him to be intelligible or heard.
Yeah, so they can maybe catch him while he's running across the White House lawn. Why isn't this on a helipad? Like, what? Did they really just land Marine 2 or Marine 1 on the grass? They don't have a helipad for it?
I mean, they likely do, but they routinely land on the grass. There's lots of videos of it.
Why?
I don't know.
I mean,
the grass?
Do we not have enough money for a helipad? Even like a turf pad? I mean, is that real grass or is it a turf? That might be turf.
It looks like...
It looks like grass, but it could be turf. It looks like grass because it just goes on forever into the actual
turf
forest.
has also a little bit of black rubber pieces, right? You wouldn't want to land a
Well, you could use like a solid turf, perhaps, like that spongy turf.
Oh, maybe, yeah. What you don't want is something that easily breaks up into small pieces that can get sucked up into the engine.
Or grass.
Or grass.
Anyways, this interview is very noisy, and you can't really hear Joe, but we'll try to say what he says over top of him if we need help hearing it. But just to warn you, ear rape.
And they showed me a X-ray. He said a .22 caliber bullet will lodge in the lung, and we can probably get it out, may be able to get it and save the life. A 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body. So the idea.
All right, so he said he saw X-rays and he talked with the doctor. He said that a .22 caliber round that it might get lodged in a lung. It might get lodged in a lung, and you can remove that with surgery. But a 9mm round will blow the lung clean out of the body.
Like, we're talking about a chest cavity, like a.
You realize most of your chest is the lung.
Yeah. The width of the lung, is the entire chest cavity.
So Dyer, would the now I have not seen any yet, but I am highly anticipating some of the gun tubers to be putting out videos attempting to blow a lung out of a mannequin or something. I desperately want to know what is it going to take to make that happen, and I really hope that some of these gun tubers put out something to explain
It'd have to be like an artillery round at close range.
Right. Well, and I mean, if this is anything, this is a case for headshots.
Yes. So initially, when I saw this ridiculous statement from Biden, I had the idea of showing you actual entrance and exit wounds comparisons between .22 and 9mm, but I don't think it's even relevant.
And Dyer realizes that he has the right to remain silent, and anything that he can say will be used against him.
Clearly, 9mm with its lackluster stopping power does
Dyer,
not blow.
Dyer was going to show
lungs
you
out.
entry and exit wounds of various calibers, but he just wasn't sure where he could hide more bodies.
Okay, so like think of the mass of that bullet. There's no fucking way you're blowing out an entire lung. I don't think I need to justify that.
The
right?
force to anything with enough force to remove a lung from the body is probably going to vaporize the majority of the body. Just because you're talking about pulling something. I mean, a lung must be, I'd say probably 15% of your body mass if you're an average sized person. So, I mean, you're talking about like ripping 15% of the volume out of your body, out of your chest.
I think you're referring to the lung and all the material in that cylindrical shape, right?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just trying to I'm just trying to do some like rough estimates that like, could you with a projectile remove 15% of your body mass, but not have the rest of it also be vaporized? And I don't think that you can.
No, you couldn't just remove the lung. You have to remove everything behind the lung and in front of the lung for you to like cut out that part of someone's body. And then the force required to do that is going to just liquefy everything else. So, like, okay, the point is, this is ridiculous. Us even going this far into explaining why it's ridiculous is also ridiculous that we're having to even justify it. Okay, it's stupid. What I said made no sense. But more importantly, seriously, hear me out here, okay? Where does it say that the standard for your right to bear arms is restricted to what can or cannot blow lungs out? The point of the weapon is to be lethal. The point of the weapon is not to injure the criminal so they can later be saved after they tried killing you and you're forced to defend yourselves.
Yes, and if you are in a self-defense situation, and this is, check your local listings for what your self-defense laws are, but typical traditional self-defense training is that you shoot until the threat is no
lungs
longer
are gone.
Yes. So if you have a 22 to defend yourself with, and one of your 22 rounds has been lodged in one of the lungs, I tell you what, an assailant with 2 lungs is still a threat. So
you keep firing as many bullets as it takes for that lung to be outside that body.
I'm not saying that, Dyer. Dyer's not saying that either.
I was also making a joke. So the point of the weapon, when you are faced with lethal force, you're expecting that you could be harmed and that you need to defend yourselves. Of course, how much harm is determined by the laws in your area, but you're being forced to defend yourself, right? You're not shooting the threat to injure it. You're shooting the threat to stop it. You're using lethal force that is likely to kill the person that you're forced to defend yourself against. You're not the idea that Biden's saying, "Oh, we need to use smaller bullets to ensure that criminals don't die," is insane.
Yeah, and if you wanna know something that's uses a smaller round and is far more lethal, is the Block 19 firing small Legos that you could step on. And if you've never stepped on a Lego, I'd much rather take a 22 to the lung.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather you could lose your entire foot,
Yeah.
So I think that every American has never committed any crimes that would exclude them should be issued a gun that fires other smaller guns that themselves fire grenades.
So the MIRV handgun.
The MIRV handgun.
Yes. And speaking of the lethality of 22s, I was at the gun store one time, and there was actually happened to be one of the local sheriffs from a surrounding town was there. Not like for like any particular event, but he was there with a woman that was trying to get her first handgun, and they were talking calibers, and I was just kind of overhearing. But he was talking about she was like, well, is a 22 enough? And he goes, a lot of people say that 22 doesn't have enough stopping power, but as the sheriff, I've overseen plenty of homicides and self-defense shootings that would suggest otherwise. So, again, it's much, much more determinate on your aim than really on your caliber. If you require a higher caliber to stop a threat, a typical threat, it's probably due to aim. So you don't want to, you're going to be much better off working on your aim with a gun that is appropriately sized to you and your strength, than getting a gun that is unwieldy, that is too powerful for you to hang on to, and not working on your aim. Much, much better off getting a smaller caliber, a more manageable caliber, and working on your aim. If you can do both, though, if you're like Dyer, you can just throw a rock, that works too. or just Dyer just growls and barks at people, and usually they get scared and run off.
The argument for why people tend to use 9mm is because it is a round that is fired from guns that can be fired more accurately because it has less kick. It's a less powerful bullet in it. No, not that, less explosion, so less kick, and it's easier to fire, and thus it's easier to fire accurately. It's not a bullet that's known for having the highest stopping power. It's on the spectrum, as Fox said earlier, between it being controllable and easier to use and having stopping power. And it's actually a bullet that's preferred in guns that a lot of women use as their concealed carries because it is easier to control for a woman's self-defense. So if you're trying to ban the 9mm bullet, you're actually taking away one of the most effective weapons that women are using to defend themselves.
Now, a pistol that may be able to blow a lung out of a body is a FN. FN makes a pistol, maybe, that shoots out of a pistol a 7.76 round, or 7.62 round, sorry. And I believe that a 7.62 round out of a pistol may be able to actually blow a lung out of a body. However, I was intending to bring that gun to you guys to show you and find an article about it or a picture of it, and I can't seem to find it, and I can't seem to find any record of it ever existing, so I possibly dreamed of that, and it may or may not exist.
Presented without evidence, Fox.
If anybody knows of an FN pistol that shoots a rifle round, please let me know what it is and where I went wrong on that. I believe that it exists. I think I may have got the caliber wrong, though, and that's why I couldn't find it. So if anybody knows of an FN pistol that shoots a rifle round, please drop it in chat so I can find and purchase this weapon.
Yes. Also, White Lion pointed out something very funny, that it was also Biden who said that you should use a shotgun, which actually is far more likely to blow someone's lung apart than a 9mm.
Yeah, I would say a 1-ounce slug may well rip a lung out of your out of a body.
Looking at the cavitation that a slug caused, it definitely would liquefy the lung, not blow it outside your body, though. And then he also had recommended that people give warning shots. So I guess a warning shot with a shotgun.
Yeah, the warning shot's the lung. Business shots the head.
Exactly.
I would say the lung's a warning shot.
Yeah, that definitely would warn me to.
You've been alerted to. I don't want to.
Like, ouch, that stinks. I should stop doing this.
Stay back.
Yeah. Your argument is you made a very good argument, sir. I will stop doing what I was doing.
Voracious Blackson's joking about the old stop and power argument. Yeah, so you'll get you'll hear some people who have perhaps small manhoods talking about needing to have these big high calibers, and those are fun. Those are fine. The old 45s. I think the phrase with that is that a 9mm will put a hole in somebody, a 45 will knock them down. And some of that's true, but if you're of a smaller frame or not as experienced, if you're not a regular shooter, 45 is going to knock you down too. So again, you got to the caliber. The best caliber is the caliber that you can shoot accurately. That's by far the best caliber ever, is whatever caliber you can shoot accurately. If it's too big, if it hurts, if it's not something that you can reliably control, then that's not the right caliber for you. And for a lot of people, a lot of beginners, 22 is perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with that. And again, like I said, whatever caliber you can shoot reliably and accurately is a perfect caliber for you.
And my argument earlier about saying that the 9mm has less stopping power isn't an argument for why you need a higher stopping power weapon. No, I'm saying that the 9mm is very effective. A lot of people use it because, you know what? It doesn't matter how much stopping power you have if you can't shoot it accurately. That's why the military used 9mm for such a long time.
Yeah, and the stopping power argument, again, that's more for perhaps a wild animal, maybe somebody who's on drugs, maybe a person that's significantly larger than you. But at that point, if you got somebody coming at you on PCP, a 22, a 9mm, maybe even a 45 is going to do the exact same thing to him, which is probably nothing.
I saw a guy get attacked by a bull moose when he was out on a snow. What do you call them?
Snowmobile.
Snowmobile, thank you.
A jet ski for the snow.
Yeah, I don't want
a snow ski.
So, Bull Moose attacked him, and he pulled out a Glock and shot it like 6 times and put it down. But you could put down a large animal with a smaller caliber.
Exactly. Also, I usually choose my calibers to be 22, 9, and 5.56 just due to availability, which is also a very primary consideration. The 45 ACP, I see somebody putting that in there, the 357, those are getting a lot harder to find. So if you got something that shoots that, you might not have as much practice ammo as you thought. You might have to reserve that. And so I would say a good caliber is something that you can both carry and practice with. So a lot of stuff that goes into picking a caliber.
Yeah, I mean, ammo's got really expensive recently thanks to certain people.
Yeah, and I would say ability to blow a lung out of the body is an important aspect of your caliber, but it's not the only aspect.
I think we have the constitutional right to have weapons that can blow lungs out if we so choose to have one.
I agree. Alrighty, so not only is Joe Biden talking about things that he probably shouldn't be talking about with gun control, Congress is also talking about things that they should not be talking about with gun control. So the Democrats are trying very hard to change the age for purchasing weapons at all. I believe nationwide there is a ban on under 21 buying a pistol, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. So whereas 18-year-olds and some 16-year-olds in some jurisdictions are able to buy rifles and shotguns, just not a handgun, which may or may not be racist. I don't know. I feel like that's probably racist because I think that gangsters mostly use handguns. So I would say it's probably targeted. But, so Congress is working on trying to change that. And here was an interesting exchange, which, Dyer, have you seen this clip of Jerry Nadler talking about gun control?
I have not.
Okay, you're going to love this clip, and I can't wait to hear you react to this live, because you are going to lose it. Let's hear. Make sure it's got good volume.
We recognize different ages for different purposes.
Am I sharing audio?
You are. I was fucking with you.
We recognize 18 for the draft. We recognize we recognize different ages for different purposes. We recognize 18 for the draft. We recognize 16 for driving in some states. We recognize 21 for drinking. So we recognize different ages for different purposes. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could I have a second to engage that?
Certainly. I'll yield to the gentleman from Kentucky.
Would the chairman join me in co-sponsoring a bill to raise the draft age to 21?
No.
But the chairman feels that their brains aren't fully formed at 18, 19, and 20.
The research does indicate that in certain respects, but the Selective Service needs. I mean, if the country needs people, it needs people.
It needs people whose brains aren't fully formed.
In certain respects, yes.
I yield back.
Oh my God!
Hoping that mine is fully formed at 40.
I hope so. You, Mr. Gates.
I hope so. Yeah, we won't put that to a vote.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so according to Jerry Nadler, we need a bunch of brain dead 18-year-olds to sign up to die for the country. Thanks. How do you feel, Dyer? Please respond.
Fuck him. First off. Second off, fuck him. No, good point, right? If you're saying that we aren't well formed enough to own a gun, how are you gonna give us a gun to go fight for the country, huh? How does that make any fucking sense, right? Jeez Louise, that doesn't. What these idiots are making laws that send us to war and rule our lives.
Well, and it comes down to that, right? So he kind of gave away the punchline there, is that one of the reasons for just all the regulations, the entire ethos behind communism, socialism, authoritarianism, the Democrat Party, the terms that sum up the Democrat Party policies, is that you, the average citizen, are not smart enough to make decisions on your own. Therefore, we must regulate your everyday lives. A civilian, well, you're not smart enough to be trusted in our civilian streets with a gun, but you're you're just smart enough for us to give you a rifle, a pat on the back, and point you at some brown people in a desert and have you shoot at them. That is what the elites and the authoritarians have now, is they have this utter contempt for the intelligence of an average civilian, and they are he's giving away the game there, that the military intentionally recruits people who don't know what it is that they're signing up for.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, just like they want to disarm the average American citizen, they've already disarmed what they are most afraid of is the military members that are American citizens, right?
Exactly. You're not allowed to carry on basically any bases unless it's an actual combat base.
So I can't carry my weapon at home station or at any non-deployed location, and I can't have it if I'm living on the base. That means I can't have it at home either, right?
Well, Dyer, is there really any reason for you to need to carry on a base? Yeah, there's the Pensacola shooting, yeah, there was the Fort Hood shooting, and yeah, there was the one at the base in Hawaii, and there was this other
Fort Hood.
Yeah, but other than those, where they just turned our military bases into a shooting gallery for some foreign terrorists that they invited to show around. Other than those, is there really any reason why you need to carry a gun on?
I again, my name being on a list of names of individual targets that were found on a hard drive in the Middle East.
Really?
Yeah.
You're that special?
So,
I didn't know that.
No, as part of a unit that was bombing the fuck out of that place, and they wanted revenge.
How would they even get that?
I don't know, but they had it, and that was one of the warnings that came out, that our base and specific individuals on the base, part of my unit, were all not that. Obviously we killed that cell. That's why we had the information. Right. But that means that that was information that was circling around as possible targets, one of many targets. Right. We weren't the only base, or the only personnel that they wanted to get revenge against. But the point is that the military is one of the major targets for terrorists to attack. So why would you, when knowing that is their goal, is to sneak onto a base and kill as many soldiers to get revenge as possible, why would you disarm that populace?
Well, because you are brain dead 18 to 21-year-olds who do not have fully formed prefrontal cortexes.
We're trained on safety. We have all passed background checks, and we are all given, regular evaluations to determine whether or not we can or cannot be armed. And those who, for some reason, fail such evaluation are not permitted to be armed by the commander, so they wouldn't have a weapon, right? If they have some sort of mental issue that they're going through, then they can be removed temporarily of their ability to be armed for their duties. But for everyone else who is mentally stable and is trusted enough to go off and have a weapon and to fight for our wars, why can't we be armed to defend ourselves, right? And that makes no sense.
Yes. Part of me agrees that the average 18-year-old, after spending 12, 13, 14 years in a public education system, probably is a little bit brain dead. But that's not my problem. That's not our problem. That's the idiocy or genius or incompetence or special considerations of another person has nothing to do with your rights. The fact that you have some insane tranny that went and shot up Uvalde has nothing to do with your rights. The fact that the police just allowed that to happen for 90 minutes and just didn't do their job.
Don't think it was actually a tranny, by the way.
Saw pictures.
Wrong person.
Are you assuming his gender identity, Dyer?
Oh my god. So there was a different picture of a different person who was a tranny who was being passed off as him.
Well, I think he was a tranny at heart, Dyer.
Okay.
Anyways,
it doesn't matter either way.
Anyways, it's what's the thing? It might not be. It's morally correct, just not factually correct, or something.
It's not factually true, but it's morally correct.
Yes, there you go. But no, it's back to my point, I guess, and just in general, sum it up is I don't think that somebody else's competence or incompetence has anything to do with yours, and it doesn't affect your rights. The Constitution doesn't say, these are the Bill of Rights, except unless there's idiots in society, then all of a sudden we got to pull them back for you, who's not an idiot. Oh, well, this is the Bill of Rights, except for if there's criminals, then we have to suspend it for everybody. It doesn't say that. So I that's rather unique to America. I think it should be, not unique to the world or to humanity, but America is unique in having, memorialized that in our Constitution. And so, go ahead.
Sorry. If America's education system is putting out idiots who we can't trust with weapons, maybe that's a problem of the education system, not the right being given to people of that age.
And I mean, you have to look at the particular evil of Jerry Nadler. I'm not saying that he's correct, but if he does believe that military servicemen are, mentally deficient, but he's leveraging their mental deficiency to go fight wars abroad, that's particularly evil to be taking advantage of people like that. Whether it's true or not, he certainly thinks that he is. He thinks that he's getting one over on people.
Yep.
Dyer, your brain fully formed yet, you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely not 18 though.
Oh. Yeah. How stupid are you? You enlisted after your brain was fully formed.
Yeah, I must be pretty stupid.
Joke's on you.
Thanks for rubbing it in.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So we'll see where that goes, but I'm sure I'm sure Jerry's thinks very highly of the military. Another reason you may need a gun a handgun even to defend yourself, perhaps via blowing someone's lung out, is that Ethan Klein of H3H3 threatened to bomb the NRA conference last week. He actually had his YouTube channel. Like, to give you a sense of how serious this isn't me just like saying it or making it up, or if you've heard this from other people, like they're not just like blowing something out of proportion. No. YouTube suspended Ethan Klein's channel for a whole week over this because of a threat of violence. Ethan Klein very directly, actually to the point where we can't even play it. A lot of people were who are much more in tune with the YouTube ecosystem than we are. They talked to their YouTube reps. Ours was busy for some reason,
Yeah.
So we're going to get a hold of them. But basically, you can't even replay what Ethan said on YouTube because it was such an egregious call for violence, calling on people to go bomb the NRA, his wife agreeing with him, and then his producer very quickly trying to roll everything back and say, oops, nope, we didn't mean that. So, yeah, that's why. Because the left has not recently turned to violence. They've always been violent. They're
violent today, right now. They're committing violence on the streets of Dallas.
Yeah.
Antifa right now.
Exactly. So, and if we've seen anything over the last 2 to 3 years here, it's that, yes, they have no problem yanking you out of your car. If you're lucky, you get pulled out of your car and curb stomped. If you're not lucky, they'll just shoot you through your driver's side window. So, yeah, we... If there's any reason for, why would somebody need that kind of stopping power to blow someone? Well, because Antifa exists. That's why.
Yeah.
Because Joe Biden and his party have winked and nodded, encouraged, and even in Kamala Harris's case, paid for violence conducted against American citizens and conservatives in general. So that's why. That's why.
People like them. That is why we need weapons to defend ourselves, because they are actually enabling those who would suppress us and harm us.
Yes. Alrighty. Next little piece of the story.
So, also a story somewhat related to Biden is that Hillary's lawyer, Michael Sussman, Hillary Clinton's lawyer, who lied to the FBI that he was not acting on behalf of a campaign or political organization when he gave the Trump Russia dossier to them. He was found not guilty by a D.C. jury. Now, he was found not guilty of lying to the FBI when the evidence clearly showed he lied to the FBI. The lie being, again, that he said he was coming as a private citizen, just providing information that he was concerned about to the FBI to investigate, which was the Trump Russia dossier.
Did you hear about the additional revelation that the FBI has a field office in the building for Perkins Coie, who Michael Sussman works for, the FBI has a field office that's integrated into the Perkins Coie office building. Did you know that?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and Michael Sussman actually oversaw that office while he was being, while he perjured himself towards them.
Yep. So he was being paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign for the purpose of gathering the information for the dossier, and he billed for those hours that he worked on the dossier.
He actually billed Hillary specifically for the time when he went to go talk to the FBI when he lied to them directly. It was like a 15-minute block of time that he upped to an hour, and there's actually a line item that accounts for the time that he talked to the FBI, and he actually charged Hillary to lie to the FBI for her.
So not only was he there on her behalf, because Hillary Clinton was also aware of and approving of and directing and authorized the operation of creating and providing the dossier to the FBI. She was there's communications they revealed in the court case that she was very much aware and involved, and it is 100% obvious that he lied to the FBI.
Yeah, this is an extraordinarily complicated situation, as is the entire Russiagate scandal, but the highest, quickest version of it that I can give you as a recap, and there's a lot of other channels that did this probably better than us, because we did not put a lot of effort into it. But it would really take probably a 10-hour super
We've already done stories on this before. We're just kind of giving an update.
But the exactly. So the kind of quick recap on this with this new information is that Michael Sussman, a lawyer at Perkins Coie, who was contracted by the Hillary Clinton campaign, Perkins Coie contracted Fusion GPS. They built the Steele dossier, which had stuff in it about Trump peeing on prostitutes and or getting peed on maybe in Russia, and then having a Trump Tower server getting Russian bank data packets sent to and from it. That was all collected, some of it fabricated, into the Steele dossier and then delivered to the FBI. The FBI, when they received it, Michael Sussman lied to them and said that this was essentially genuine evidence, not a fabricated campaign product. The FBI knew essentially that he was, that this was a Hillary Clinton campaign product. We have internal FBI communications that confirm that. And then before that happened, though, Hillary Clinton personally signed off on this operation. After that, you had the FBI agents who they couldn't go anywhere with this information because it wasn't true. So, they try to investigate it, or they pretend like they're going to try to investigate it, but there's nothing to investigate because it's all fabricated. And so some of them leaked pieces of the dossier that was fabricated back to the media. That's how BuzzFeed News got it. BuzzFeed News then reports on it. All of a sudden, the FBI can use that report as, oh, there's a second source that this is true. But that second source is just a redux. It's a fabrication of the first story, or of the first source. So now that the FBI has two sources, both the Steele dossier and then also the Steele dossier that they leaked to BuzzFeed, two sources, they can now continue on with their investigation, and that's exactly what they did. And we know where that led. You had them wrapping Michael Flynn up in a fraudulent case. You had them wrapping Trump up for 4 years in that. You had them multiple prosecutions of Trump aides and assistants and people with the campaign, putting them in jail for unrelated things, followed by just this Russia hysteria for the last 6 years, rolling that into the Biden administration, where you see Biden's aggressive stance, the Democrats' aggressive stance with Russia, to the point where largely exacerbating and or causing what happened in Ukraine, which has led into this whole gas crisis problem, etc. Not to mention just the Joe Biden presidency in general. Had Trump not been mired in scandal for 4 years, I think that it would have been a little bit easier for the country to stomach voting for him. Clearly, they voted for him en masse. Again, both Trump and Biden both received absolute record vote totals. But the Biden votes were very clearly votes against Trump. Had Trump not been so mired in scandal, you wouldn't have had that much fervor in opposition, but you would have maintained the fervor and support. So this one little incident even though Michael Sussman was quote unquote found not guilty, we now know that it was authorized by Hillary directly. And we know that the FBI knew that it was a fabrication and that they purposefully leaked stories to the media to falsify second and tertiary sources so that they could then run wild with it. And we see what the effects of this have been. It's been an utter disaster for America, clearly. And a lot of it is due to this small little thing that they did under the Hillary Clinton campaign.
So a lot of the explanation, though very helpful, is a little unnecessary for understanding what happened here. He lied. The evidence shows clearly that he lied to the FBI, but a jury in D.C. still found him not guilty based off of jury nullification. Simply, the D.C. Members of the jury did not feel like they wanted to hold him accountable for the crime he clearly committed.
And we know that they probably saw that there was evidence of him committing a crime, and that they did, as Dyer just said, they just decided that they didn't want to hold him accountable because there's a quote from one of the jurors who said, well, there's more important things going on in the world right now than lying to the FBI. Okay, maybe there is more important things going on in the world than lying to the FBI, but you're a juror in the case about lying on the FBI. You're not a juror in the case on the rest of the world's problem. You're a juror in the case of those problems. That's just absolutely insane that anybody would say that about a case that they're a juror on. It's like, well, what's the matter if this guy killed another guy? I mean, there's famine in Europe right now, so that's pretty bad. So it's like unless the trial is about the worst thing that ever happened, it's just below the jurors, notice basically.
Yep. So for Voracious Blackson, it's less about the age; it's more about what kind of people we are teaching and what we're teaching them, the maturity level of the individuals. So I think 18 is old enough, but it's on our shoulders for us to have a culture to teach people to be responsible and to be able to be ready at that point to have a gun.
Yeah, we've massively extended adolescence as a culture. As Voracious Blackson just put in chat, militia was age 14 to 40. You go back 100 years, even 50 years, you're 8, 9, 10 years old, you're probably driving a tractor on your farm. You're probably learning animal husbandry, taking care of the farm animals, the farm equipment, etc. Well, what? That's what it's called.
A stretching. Sorry, a stretching.
And then you're probably having experience hunting at younger ages. You're gonna die by 60 back then, so you better find yourself a high school sweetheart, 16 or 17, marry her at 18, and then enlist in the military and die in World War II.
With honor.
With honor. But these days, I mean, realistically, somebody put forward, I think it was Ben Shapiro, that realistically, from a legal perspective, you're a minor, a child until 26 at this point, based off of the insurance plans now that you can stay on your parents' insurance plans till you're 26. Not just legally, but culturally, we're seeing millennials living at home much longer into their 20s. Part of that is because the boomers absolutely just fucked the economy during your entire life. It's not because you're a child, it's because the economy was destroyed and you literally had no other option but homelessness. That's not necessarily your fault. And then, again, so you're staying at home longer, you're staying financially dependent longer. The types of responsibilities that you have, you're not going and driving a tractor on the farm at 8 anymore. You're, yelling and screaming in aisle number 3 at the grocery store and driving your mother crazy. So that's the types of responsibilities and expectations that you have are much reduced, if not non-existent, through your entire childhood, which is going to delay your responsibility or your sense of responsibility into adulthood. You're financially more dependent on your parents for longer, and your parents are legally obligated to take care of you at a longer period of time as well. Now that we've made college ubiquitous, you've essentially just extended that high school years another 4 years, where again you're being treated as a child. You're probably living on campus if you're at a bigger university. And you've got all these things going on where you're just not expected to have, that high level of, personhood that you would have just probably died. You probably just would have died from self-neglect in any century prior to now. So maybe Jerry Nadler's onto something. Maybe we do need to raise the draft age to 21 or to 27 or 38. I don't know. Maybe we should raise the draft age to just Congress. If you're enlisted in Congress,
it's not an age. It's more of if you're in Congress, you're also enlisted in the military.
I think. How about this? We have massive benefits packages for federal employees. If you want to work at the ATF, the FBI, the IRS, the FDA, you want to get enlisted in Congress, whatever. You can do that for 4 years, and then after that, you've got a mandatory 8-year enlistment in the military, and we'll give you fantastic benefits. But if you're going to run the country for 4 years, then you got to deal with the aftermath for 8. How about that?
Yes. So every government official has to be in government when they're young enough where they can serve for 8 years after their service is done, right? That way, anything they do to the country, they then have to live with the consequences of.
I mean, you don't need to be. I mean, it doesn't really matter how old you are to be cannon fodder.
I mean,
Jerry seems to think that it's no big deal to send brain dead 18-year-olds into the line of fire. Why can't we send old, decrepit congressmen into the line of fire?
I'm not worried about him passing the mile and a half or 2 mile run or ruck. I'm concerned he can't walk 100 feet without getting a heart attack.
Can his body absorb a bullet that would have otherwise hit you? That's the key
question. Might blow his lung out.
Could you imagine just like you're running behind somebody and then sort of lung hits you and you're like, God, I got Jerry Nadler's lung all over me.
This is always happening to me.
I mean, that's basically like battlefields, right? As you just look at a battlefield, it's just covered in lungs.
Yeah.
You think smoking's bad?
I mean, really, that's how you kill someone. You got to aim for the lung. Otherwise, they're fine.
Exactly. Alrighty.
We're so bad.
Yeah. Okay. Are we on the next story yet?
Yes, we are.
All right. Just crank through
killed
it,
that story. It's dead.
Yeah.
Stop being.
Was that a story, or was that just like a list of headlines you didn't feel like breaking up into separate subsections?
They were related.
In the sense that they're news.
Yes. Well, that was the news section. All those were news stories. Now we're moving on to not news stories.
It was related in like the thinnest sense that they were topics that we could talk about.
They were like loosely related to Biden. I kept referring back to Biden every time I brought up the headline because, I could all relate this to something going on.
What category is this? Yes.
Hey. Those are all poignant things to talk about.
All right. Another thing that's poignant is Uvalde, which we talked about at great length last week. And boy, it did not get any better. This week has been about as bad as the week before, with basically all of the bad things continuing to be reconfirmed and all of the good things, all of the positive aspects of the story continuing to be debunked. Let's see here. So we have the Uvalde police chief who was recently secretly confirmed as a city council member, which is odd. He has said that they will the police will make no further comment about what happened during the events of the shooting until the parents stop grieving, which, I mean, yeah, to be kind of just like deathly serious. I mean, do you think that a parent that lost a child like that's going to stop grieving like ever?
Do you think that they're going to stop grieving within a matter of days or years? Are you planning on never talking about this? And more importantly, do you think they will stop grieving or at least get closure anytime without you actually telling them what happened?
Yeah, I would say that would be a big piece of this grieving process, would be getting closure to, because I would think that so long as there's questions about, did this happen because the police were incompetent? Did this happen, was my kid alive at the beginning of this, but only because the police were cowards that he died? What happened? I would think that those questions going unanswered would make you stuck in the grieving process. It'd make you unable to continue.
Here. a lot of people think that this guy is directly responsible for their child dying, and he and his organization are appearing to refuse to give answers about whether or not they were at fault or what the cause was, and that's going to elongate the grieving process. It's going to magnify the sadness and anger that these parents are living through right now. No, silence is not the answer.
Let's watch a shockingly, two stories here is that CNN actually committed an act of journalism, which is
we were all surprised,
very surprised. And then also the act of journalism that they decided to commit was flash interviewing the police chief, and let's watch how that went.
Your decision and what the DPS director said.
How's it going?
But I'm Pete. Nice to
Matt
meet you.
Freeman, nice to meet you.
I want to talk to you about the decision and what
department we're doing, but just to let y'all know, and I just spoke with.
I know you did. But
you're not blocking me, are you?
No. Turn this way.
No, just so y'all know. Just so you all know, obviously, we're not going to release anything. We have people in our community being buried, so we're going to be respectful.
I just want your reaction
we're going to be
the director McGraw saying that you were responsible for the decision
we're
to go into that room. How do you explain yourself to the
We're going to be respectful to the family.
I understand that, but you have an opportunity
to
explain yourself to the parents.
And just so you know, we're going to do that eventually, obviously.
When?
And whenever this is done, and let the families quit grieving, then we'll do that, obviously. And just so everybody knows, we've been in contact with DPS every day. Just so you all know.
They say They say that you're not cooperating.
I've been on the phone with them every day.
They say you're not cooperating. So just 2 seconds.
Just so you know, we've been talking to them every day.
What is your reaction?
Y'all have a good day.
What is your reaction, sir?
Listen to the way he says. We're waiting until they quit grieving. Like it's the parents are wrong for grieving.
He's actually standing on the grave saying, well, there's still people being buried. Well, okay, first off, why are there people being buried? The allegation is that because of your incompetence that there's people being buried. So like that's not really the consequences of your own incompetence is not a defense of your incompetence. No. Very, very odd. But also, again, that is standing on the graves. It's a total non sequitur. It's not, I think that the White House tried to do a similar thing in the pullout of Afghanistan when those 13 service members died. As well, we're still burying people. Like, well, no. Your incompetence is irrespective of the consequences. You still need to explain yourself regardless of what the consequences were. I mean, imagine if that was the standard that like, well, if you're a little bit incompetent, then you have to explain yourself. But if you just, are incompetent, you hit it out of the park with your incompetence and get a bunch of people killed, then, well, now you don't have to explain yourself. No. That standard is obviously incorrect. That is clearly an incorrect standard. In fact, the more grave the consequences, I would say the more encouragement you should get to explain yourself and explain what happened.
The subtext is also saying that a way for them to quit grieving is that the outrage against his actions are based on irrational emotion and not legitimate criticism.
Well, the way I saw it is that possibly what is going to be revealed is that it was his fault and that grieving parents will be even more torn apart that it was his fault, and they'll start directing. Some of that grieving may roll back into anger. They're probably still in the anger phase right now, and if that gets directed at him, well, he's going to lose that cushy city council seat he just got.
I can't imagine he keeps it at this point because there's a heck of a lot of evidence that he is the one at fault, and also the fact that he is being quiet and not answering questions implies like, look what the other police chief is doing. The actual Uvalde city police, not the school police. He's a school department police officer chief. They're giving regular press releases about what they know. Other government officials are being quick to tell the populace about what they know, which is normal. Silence from a police chief is not normal, unless they're at fault and they know anything that they say can and will be used against them in a court of law.
Yep.
Also, as you mentioned, that he was sworn in because he recently, before this all happened, there was an election where he was voted in
Nazi
as
fags.
a city.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Given that a lot of these people in Congress are re-dead immortals who survive on child sacrifices, they might actually make good meat shields on the battlefield. They could just absorb bullet after bullet like walking ballistics gel.
Well, I think that, thank you very much for the $10, Triumvirate, much appreciated. I think that, Nancy Pelosi, I think you would have a hard time. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I'm just going to say that she has a lot of plastic in her face.
I think that she's too short and skinny to be an effective ballistic shield for me.
But think about all the Botox, Dyer.
Right. Bullets might just bounce off and hit the enemy, though.
Yeah, Botox is like essentially made out of botulized mayonnaise, and I mean mayonnaise. Imagine firing a bullet into mayonnaise, Dyer.
Can we just strap them to the outside? It probably wouldn't help. Maybe we get strapped them to the outside of our tanks on the on the
Mad Max, the new Mad Max.
Exactly. It bolster the strength of our tanks.
Well, what was my idea? Was it 4Com? Having forward command having basically moving the primary operations that are held at the Pentagon, moving that to a forward operating base called 4Com. And if these people want to be making all of these adventurous decisions about how we operate our military and what we do around the world, then they should be making the decisions where the effects are happening at. Let's put them out there. And see if their decision and their adventurous policies are the same when they're 100 miles away from the situation versus being 2,000 miles away.
Remember that one-star general who was flown in to a base to meet with, I think, I could be wrong, I believe it was meeting with the Taliban sect to talk about peace talks and all that shit. And when he landed, well, actually right before, so he just got off the helicopter. The helicopter still isn't turned off yet. A terrorist shot him in the chest, but he survived, and then his troops returned fire and killed the terrorist. I guess they're all terrorists, but the terrorist that was currently shooting at him. But yeah, that's the kind of position where the frontline general should be these guys who are ordering us to go to fight for them.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, he was that police chief was sworn in as the city council member, and they said that they did it in a behind closed doors without a ceremony, out of respect for the families who were burying their children today and who were planning to bury their children in the next few days. They thought that a ceremony would be disrespectful. I think having him take office is disrespectful. But that's just me.
Yeah, I would think he needs to resign from the city council just from like the logistics of it. If there's still questions about his involvement in the situation, and they have city council meetings, which are going to have to be like by definition open to the public, I would imagine the city council meetings are going to be pretty much completely ground to a halt with parents coming in to ask questions and him not wanting to answer. I mean, I would think just out of respect for the city, he would need to resign. Just because I don't think that they're going to be able to have an effective city council. And I think at this point they really need an effective city council.
Yeah, to determine how to punish him. Also, keep in mind that 44% of the city's budget goes towards the police force. The police force currently is spending time cowering in their homes, afraid to do their job because they had to bring in police from other cities to police the city because the police of Uvalde are scared to go out on the street because of backlash for them failing to do their jobs and allowing those kids to die.
Well, that's fantastic. All right.
So they're getting paid to do nothing right now.
Yeah. All right, let's crank through this part.
Yep. So reports are saying that the Uvalde police are also not cooperating with the state investigation. Particularly, that chief right there was not cooperating. The Texas Department of Public Safety said Uvalde Police District's police chief Pete Arredondo, who made the decision to wait for more resources rather than to confront the gunman sooner, has stopped cooperating with the state investigators, and that he has not responded to a request for information for 2 days at the time of the reporting. Now, that police chief, Arredondo, contests those claims. As you saw in the video, he claims that he has had daily contact and that he is cooperating fully with the investigation. Now, the origin of the claim was that the resource from the Texas Department of Public Safety said that Arredondo had initially done an interview, just like most of the police officers did, with the state investigators from the Texas Rangers before the claim was made that he had made the wrong decision. As soon as he made it was said publicly that he made the wrong decision, that he then for 2 days did not respond for requests for follow-up interviews. So that's what the claim came from. I don't know if from that point on, from that point to now, he has given an interview to the Texas Rangers, but there hasn't been any reporting that he has. There's been no reporting either way. But that was the origin of the claim that, like, right after when the Texas Rangers demanded to come in for an interview for more information, he didn't respond for 2 days.
And so also you're going to have a little bit of probably in the future here, probably in like the next couple of weeks, you have some time confusion as to when events happened. And it may be that they, after that point, and will in the future, let's see here, will cooperate with DPS. But if at any point during that process you don't cooperate with DPS, that's you not cooperating with DPS. You can later start cooperating with DPS, but that doesn't change that you initially weren't cooperating with DPS. So what you will probably see as an attempt to cover this up or to shift the narrative is at some point in the future is saying, well, no, they're cooperating with DPS now. So, like, that was false reporting that they weren't cooperating. No. If at any point in time you were not cooperating with DPS, that was you not cooperating with DPS. You can later change your relationship with DPS, but that doesn't mean that you have retroactively erased time. There was still a period of time in which you were not cooperating with DPS, and therefore it is still valid to say you were not cooperating with DPS.
Exactly. That's why we're going to report that at least for that time period, he was not cooperating. And it's very strange that, you see all these other government officials and police officials making public statements because that's normal, but he's refusing to. His lack of being involved when he clearly would be the one with the most information, being the commander on the scene, the fact that he's not speaking for himself is telling. And the fact that he, for any period of time, is not responding to demands for information from the investigators appointed over him, that means that he, at that time, did not cooperate, and that it will remain a true statement that he did not cooperate, at least for some portion of this investigation.
Yep. So if you are, I don't think you've had to really wonder much what the Biden administration response to this is. Obviously, they want to take your guns because, that this has anything to do with you, the law-abiding citizen. But that's not the only thing Joe's going to do. Joe also wants to raise the school and build a new one, which I believe that, like, raising a building is a little bit different than, tearing it down or demolishing it. I think raising means you, like, set it on fire. Right?
No, it really means removing every part of it and replacing it.
Yeah, I know, but the connotation of the word raise as opposed to using, Joe Biden
said,
an
aggressive term.
Yeah, he said, quote, "We're going to raise the school and build a new one." He could have said we're going to demolish the school and build a new one. Raising it, that tends to be like, the connotation of that tends to be a violent scenario.
Yeah, like the what do you call it? Barbarian hordes coming in and raising your village, right? Yeah. It's really funny. Like I think that it's very possible the school did require being updated, but it would not be related to this shooting. Most likely, it seems like a very drastic step that's kind of missing the point. To like, okay, well, there was a shooting there, so let's just destroy the entire school because there's multiple buildings, right? It happened in one building.
Yep.
Is the entire school so bad that it needs to be replaced? That means that probably need to be replaced regardless of the shooting. But Biden's response, probably without actually looking in the situation at all, was, "Oh, there's a shooting in that school. Let's just destroy the school." Yep. I'm sure there's no one who's invested in that school and has good memories there would not want it destroyed entirely.
Well, I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message.
Well, all right. He loves destroying schools, so
there's one thing the Democrats know how to do. It's raise the education system. All righty, exactly. Our next story here, which I'm going to crank through real quickly here, is about the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, which a lot of people seem to care a lot about, and Dyer and I cared about not at all. It was apparently the trial of the century and a huge blow to women I didn't know you could blow a woman. Of sexual abuse. Oh, okay. So I think a lot of conservatives, Crowder comes to mind most prominently. He seemed to be overly invested in this trial. A lot of other conservatives seem to be as well. Dyer and I talked about this for the last couple of weeks. Like, we both keep not wanting to cover it because we just don't care. Now that Johnny has won, so to speak, some people were saying, "Oh, this is the end of the Me Too movement." And I think that the smarter take in the room is that Johnny Depp's extremely rich, and it's really not a victory for us, the commoners, when very, very rich people are able to, I guess, use their rich, powerful lawyers to get themselves out of a situation they should never have been prosecuted for in the first place. Like, Kyle Rittenhouse getting acquitted was a major victory to the common man. It was a major blow against the establishment gun narrative. Johnny Depp getting acquitted. Yeah, Johnny Depp getting acquitted is not, or getting his settlement or whatever is not. That's not really. I don't see that as a moral victory or like an end to the Me Too movement. Like, if you as the average American male get targeted by some female for whatever reason, if it's something to do with Me Too stuff, the fact that Johnny won does nothing for you. This does not do anything to forward fatherhood rights, to forward the rights of the father to not have the child aborted, family divorce courts and family courts and all of those things. This doesn't change any of that. It doesn't change any of the alimony rules. It doesn't change any of the rules around who gets which child. It doesn't change the rules for what was it? Was it Title VII that was like all of the false rape allegations in colleges? It doesn't change any of that. If you're a college male right now, and some girl decides that she wants your family to pay for her college, and she makes an allegation about you, or you had a date that went wrong, you pointing at Johnny Depp's trial is going to do nothing for you. However, if you get falsely accused of murder after a self-defense shooting, if you're at least in Wisconsin, Kyle's trial actually does do something for you. It does do something for you if you're in another state. But Johnny's trial does not. So I know there was a lot of conservatives and a lot of commentators talking about this. This was a big, important thing. Dyer and I maintain our footing that this was a completely irrelevant and frivolous thing. You know what was a relevant and not frivolous thing? It was the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, which you probably barely even remember it happened. She recently was convicted of grooming many teenage girls for abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and his clients. His clients, all of which are named in a book that she had. What happened to that book? Dyer, do you know what happened to the book that Ghislaine Maxwell had all of her clients in there? Because you can't groom teenage girls for being raped unless there's rapists. So where do you think that book went that she had? All the
I believe it was taken by the FBI.
It was. And what did the FBI do with it?
Destroy it? I don't know.
Probably
hide it.
Yeah, it's currently sealed. Is the technical term for it. It's sealed in the same way that the Steele dossier was sealed. It's sealed in the same way that a lot of the information about the January 6th defendants and the rest of the Trump administration defendants for the again fake RussiaGate scandal. So we just had the Michael Sussman trial that showed that the RussiaGate scandal was totally fabricated by Hillary Clinton. You still have Trump officials in court defending themselves against being agents of Russia. So you've had stuff like that being leaked. Again, obviously the Steele dossier was leaked by the FBI. You have all of these things being leaked by the FBI that are favorable to the Democrats and disfavorable to the Republicans. And then all of a sudden you've got this, the FBI has a book that belonged to Ghislaine Maxwell that has listed in it, handwritten, hundreds, potentially, of people that were raping children. Powerful people that were raping children. And all of a sudden it's, things that are classified are classified. It's possible to get something classified out of the government.
Actually, the president can unclassify anything.
Yes, that's true. Probably Joe Biden's like, I'm going to classify it, but I'm going to just, I don't know why I did Trump.
There's one name here.
Yeah, there's just one name. I'm not gonna classify.
Redact that.
Yeah, redact that one.
Why'd you release the entire book but redact one name?
Oh yeah, Republicans are obviously in that book, voracious. I
oh yeah. I you know what the thing is? I don't care that there's Republicans in that book. I'm not in this to get Democrats who fucked kids in trouble or, put in jail. I want people who fuck kids put in jail. I don't care if it's an R or D or what other letter they want to put next to their name. That's the problem.
And one person who's been highlighting this recently in a tweet was Elon Musk, who is become America's new most favorite shitlord. He tweeted out something to the effect that, why doesn't the FBI, they're so fine with leaking all of these other things. Why aren't they able to leak out this book? And that has a many faceted effect when Elon tweets something out like that. Is one, he's bolstering his street cred with conservatives across the spectrum, all the way from the hard QAnon believers all the way up through more moderate people who, most moderates don't like raping children. So he's ingratiating himself with them. He's also poking the bear of the establishment because he's obviously making some allegations that there's people in the FBI, there's people in government that are going to be on that list. And then he's also essentially exonerating himself by saying, I'm not scared to see this book get published. I want this book to get published because I know I'm Elon Musk and I know my name's not in there. So go ahead and publish this book. So he's got a very, very good at communicating. Elon Musk is. In fact, that's possibly one of his primary criticisms, is that he's mostly a communicator and doesn't produce a lot of results. I know that's a common allegation, is that Elon doesn't really produce results. He just talks a lot. The Quartering had a pretty funny tweet to that. He said, Elon just doesn't really do anything. He's all talk. That's why I'm sending this tweet over my Starlink internet and I'm about to go charge my Tesla. So, but yeah, so Johnny Depp trial, don't care. You shouldn't care. If somebody's telling you should care, don't care about it. Ghislaine Maxwell, ask where that's at. Ask where her little book is. Ask why no FBI agents who are sworn to protect and defend against enemies, foreign and domestic, and all that stuff. Why aren't they able to just find it in themselves to have a Snowden moment and release this? All right.
Oh. Hey, White Lion, you don't have to apologize for sending us $10 just because you cut me off.
Well, you can apologize if you send it with another 10. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, you're terrible. Okay, next story.
I think joking about somebody choosing to send in a super chat is far better than the just like wall to wall ad reads everybody else does.
Yes, I agree.
Speaking of ad reads, I watched Daily Wire's What is a Woman? It was pretty good. It's pretty funny. I recommend it if you have a Daily Wire subscription. If you don't,
did you learn what a woman was?
We actually did not. And he actually, one of my criticisms of the movie is that they started off strong with asking what is a woman, and they ended strong with what is a woman. But in the middle, there's about an hour where like the phrase "what is a woman" doesn't come up at all. And I was hoping that all of the interviews like would have like that question in it, and they didn't seem to. But it was very good. It was very. I learned some things that I didn't know before. One of the things that I learned, which I think maybe I did know at one point and I forgot, but I'm considering as that I relearned it, is that the primary drug that is used for hormone blocking, for puberty blockers, for puberty blocking, is actually the exact same drug that is used to chemically castrate pedophiles. Yep. So I learned that. I also, my eyes were a little bit open to some of the numbers, putting actual dollar figures to just how lucrative it is for a single transitioning person, how much value that generates for the medical establishment, just in fees and drugs and surgeries and all that stuff. And it's a tremendous volume of money in the millions of dollars. And you think about the puberty blocking drug is called Lupron, and you think about how many pedophiles were we chemically castrating 10 years ago, and it was probably a countable number, I would say probably less than 50, probably less than 10 per year, because we treat pedophiles pretty gently, and I think we should be probably chemically castrating more of them. However, so you've got Lupron, a drug that's maybe having a dozen to 100 doses a year being purchased, and then all of a sudden you have thousands and thousands and thousands of trans kids. Now your 50, 100 doses a year product goes to 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 doses. That's pretty lucrative, isn't it? So I think that this highlighted some of the money issues in the industry, some of the perverse economic incentives, and then it was just overall a good fun time. It was as far as documentaries go, it hit all of the technical details that a documentary should, with good filming techniques, funny improvisations. Just Matt Walsh is pretty good at being deadpan. And just watching the supposedly best and brightest of the gender studies community not be able to answer basic questions. One of the senses I got from it was just that the answer to what is a woman is a classified secret, and they can't tell you because you are a stranger. That's what I figured
out. Sorry, I have a video we can share later that you might find funny. But I will have to check it out. Sounds like it'd be a very good video.
Yep. You know what else is a good video?
What's that?
Is this video of the COVID coordinator, the COVID czar. Oops, hold on a second. God damn it.
So he was
Welcome
asked
to the Dire
about
Wolf Show.
closing of schools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Hold on a second. I can't play this.
I wonder. Okay, so I'll give you a hint. The video basically is very short.
I can't play that version. I'm sorry.
It's all right. He gets asked. Is Biden's COVID czar? He gets asked at the end of his speech that about whether or not schools will be closing because of COVID, and he doesn't get the chance to answer that because he gets rushed off the stage, and they really didn't want him to answer that question.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't play that video. It's we couldn't find a YouTube version of it. It's a very awkward video that you have the person being asked, "Hey, are you guys going to close schools next semester?" And he's about to answer, and then just gets basically body bumped off stage by Carrie John Perry. So that was weird.
So I in response to that unanswered question, when I looked for other statements from Biden saying about what his policy was towards shutting down classrooms, and the most recent statement I could find was him saying that 2 months ago that he was for keeping schools open but closing classrooms, which means he wanted to end in-person learning. So that was what his suggested solution for COVID was 2 months ago. So it's possible the reason why they don't want to answer that question is because it's very unpopular. The learning at home has been very unpopular, and that he might get more backlash if he said what he's planning on doing. Then again, I wouldn't believe that anyone in the administration would think it's a good idea for more lockdowns, because that's one of the biggest things driving his low approval rating right now.
Yep. Alrighty. Next story.
Yep.
All right. Okay, groomers. It's not just a QAnon conspiracy, because, well, the QAnon people, they're a little strange. So they've got the QAnon people. You heard this about this QAnon group, Tyre? So they have this conspiracy theory. The world is secretly run by a satanic cult of pedophiles. It's clearly incorrect. The satanic pedophiles are not a secret, so they're actually
completely out in the open.
Yeah, they're pretty open about their ruling of the world and trying to trans your kids. So for starters, we have just this was over the last couple of years, and you can kind of see the escalation and the slippery slope and the indoctrination of it. Is Netflix, which is a company that's perfectly adjacent to the well-known pedo industry in Hollywood. Netflix has continued to expand their library of pedophilic and pederastic content. We have, of course, the Cuties movie, which is not about small oranges. We also have, so that's that Cuties movie where they were exploiting children on camera, and then released it as, quote, a movie to try to justify their exploitation of children on camera. Netflix also has a show called Big Mouth, which is an animated series involving children that have sex with each other and is depicted on screen. Interesting. Animated, of course, but Weird.
Does that make it better?
No.
Okay, so also it was recently discovered that they released another show called AJ and Queen, which I watched the trailer for. The show is a fictional story about a prepubescent trans girl dressed like a boy, and an adult drag queen she just met, traveling together alone in an RV across country doing drag shows on tour to make enough money so Queen can open her own drag club. Now, I don't think I even need to explain why this movie is bad, because just the honest description of exactly what the show is about is obviously bad. They have an actual 8-year-old going through a bunch of drag shows with this drag queen across tour alone in an RV, and this is what they're trying to put out there as being okay.
And why are they doing this in a movie and TV show format? Well, it's to normalize it in the culture at large. We have that they don't just stop at producing content. And again, there's a distinction between producing fictionalized content that alludes to bad things happening. It's a different thing to produce fictionalized content, where to produce the fictionalized content requires the very real exploitation of real children. You always see at the end of movies that have dogs in it or other animals saying, no animals were harmed in the making of this movie. Whereas at the end of Cuties, they were not able to put a title card that said no children were not sexually exploited during the making of this movie, because it wouldn't be true. Because they actually did. It would be like having a movie where there was a dog fight and they actually had dogs kill each other while they were filming it, and then that was what they showed in the movie. Nobody would be happy with that. People would be very upset about that. But if you have actual real children being sexually exploited and you just happen to be filming it, all of a sudden that's okay to put on a Netflix TV show.
That's not entertainment. That's literal actual abuse. And not only did they abuse those kids by having them perform those acts on camera, but they also had a bunch of kids that weren't picked for the movie perform those acts as they're being evaluated for whether they could be part of the show or not.
Correct. Alrighty. So as Dyer talked about earlier today, there is currently a Dallas drag show that I believe was going on today.
Yes.
A Dallas gay bar has a drag show for kids. Obscene signs draw an angry protest. So from the Daily Wire, we have a Dallas gay bar is under fire for hosting an afternoon drag show for children on Saturday, where kids were invited on stage and tipped performers in front of a neon sign bearing an obscene message. Quote, the quote, Drag Kids to Pride show at the Mr. bar was billed as a family-friendly version of the bar's regular champagne drag brunch during Saturday's event. Drag performers danced with and took dollar bills from some of the children, according to ABC affiliate WFAA. Quote, do you want to hit the stage with queens? Read the promotion for the event. We have 5 limited spots for young performers to take to the stage solo or with a queen of their choosing. Well, that makes it worse. Images from inside the club went viral and showed performers and children in front of a neon sign that read, quote, "It's not gonna lick itself." Tim Pool, a tweet that Daily Wire has chosen to highlight. Tim Pool says, quote, "It's not okay to tell kids it's not going to lick itself." I agree. And this was some pictures of the event here, which are a little wild. As you can see up in the top right there, you've got children watching what's going on here. I've actually got a video of this later on. Now, Dyer, have you ever been to a gentleman's club, or are you at least aware of what goes on there?
Yes.
Do you know what typically chairs set out for patrons while the
lap dances?
Yeah, that's typically what those are used for. I mean, what does it look like is about to happen to these children?
That they're going to have a drag queen do a lap dance for them, or sexy dancing around them, with the purpose of sexually arousing either the people watching or them.
Yes.
That is the purpose of it.
And here's the neon sign that is behind the stage. That was at a, quote, family-friendly event. Let's see here. So, Daily Wire continues. Outside the club, protesters gathered to complain that the event was grooming children. Quote, I live in this community. A woman who gave her name as Daisy and was holding a sign that said, quote, stop grooming children, told WFAA. I have for several years. I don't believe that I should be seeing signs advertising for children to be dancing on stage with men in thongs and in inappropriate clothing and makeup. Right. So I would say that probably that would be the most the key thing, right, is the inappropriateness. So there's a lot of arguments that go back and forth about, sexuality or overly sexualizing them, or, it's, they're not taking their clothes off or whatever. All of that's irrelevant. Is it appropriate? Now, some of this stuff does butt up against laws, and I think that there should be stronger laws made. But yes, the appropriateness of it is what's at issue, and it is okay for people to make issue with things that are inappropriate like that. Let's see here. A group called Protect Texas Kids protested outside and said that it hoped to scuttle the event as soon as it heard about it. Quote, the mission was to raise awareness that an event like this, a drag show for children, was happening right here in Dallas, the organizers said in a statement. We also hoped that if we raised awareness, the event might be canceled or modified so that the children could not be present. So essentially cancel culture. So cancel culture focused around protecting children. Whoa!
Stopping sexual abuse of kids is not cancel culture.
Whoa.
It'd be like saying Epstein going to jail would be cancel culture of Epstein.
Basically. Now you're getting it, Dyer.
I want to point out that not only did the anti-grooming protesters show up, Antifa, knowing that there was going to be quote-unquote right-wing, because they're saying that people who are against grooming of kids have to be right-wing, which means they're admitting that the left is for groomers. Okay, thanks for you to admit that. The Antifa showed up to prevent people from walking to the event that they didn't think were, part of the event.
They didn't think were pedophiles.
Yeah, exactly. And ended up just attacking random people. There's a video of a black guy walking down the street, just walking, and then a bunch of Antifa guys getting in front of him and trying to block him and pushing him, trying to get him out, to stop and not be able to walk down the street. And he's kind of a bigger guy, pushing past them until a police officer comes up and say, hey, you got to stop. He says, stop what? I'm just walking down the street. They're attacking me. He says, well, you're running after people. I'm literally walking, and they're standing in front of me over and over again. I'm chasing no one. I'm literally just walking down the street, and now you're in my face, not their face. And it was insane.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Dallas police.
And there's just it always frustrates me when it's like, oh, this was, slippery slope from gay marriage. Daily Wire's Michael Knowles frequently says that gay marriage was the reason why that this sort of stuff's happening. And I like to point out that, there's laws against sexualizing and sexually abusing children. I didn't see where in the gay marriage decision that nullified any of those laws. So if you have a bunch of straight people refusing to enforce pedophile laws and laws protecting children, I don't really see why that's my problem.
I don't know, Fox. Maybe it starts off with you being able to have a marriage with your boyfriend, and the next thing you know, it's illegal to fuck kids.
Well, and it's funny because Michael Knowles also said this within the last couple of weeks here, is that the gay marriage has prompted a steep decline in the marriage as an institution, because, as you know, the divorce rate was not at 53% prior to the decision to legalize gay marriage. So that definitely is all gays' fault and all happened in the last 8 years.
If divorce rates went up after gay marriage, it's only because of lesbians beating each other.
Yeah, it's only because gays now also can get divorced.
That's a better joke, actually.
Yeah. Yes, there are certain things that are slippery slopes, and I think culturally, yes, there are certain things that are slippery slopes. But I don't know that the refusal to enforce laws that are on the books, right? So there are laws governing the types of people that are allowed to go to gentlemen's clubs, gentle ladies clubs, strip clubs, and clubs like this where there are adult performers performing adult things. You have to buy business licenses for those, and those business licenses come with certain caveats that only certain kinds of patrons are allowed to be at your bar. So if predominantly straight people are going to refuse to enforce the laws on the books that protect children. And I'm advocating for more laws that protect children. I don't really see why that gay marriage was a slippery slope to this. I'm very confused on that as a notion. It does seem to be a great scapegoat. I mean, isn't it fantastic that straight people are able to scapegoat gay people for the problems that they're having in their marriage?
Let me put it this way: Epstein already had an industry of grooming and fucking kids before gay marriage.
Yes, but we only found out about it after gay marriage. Therefore, it's gay marriage's fault.
Right. So there was a long list of elites who currently are making policy that are supporting the abuse of minors. They were, they were abusing minors prior to that decision. So I would say they're probably completely unrelated from each other. And you also can't point to a causation.
Well, I mean, come on now, Fox. It's because of the social pressures, police they're scared to enforce the law now. That was the slippery slope. Was that they're scared to?
That was other things that the Democrats have done where they've allowed people to get away with these crimes. That's not related to gay marriage. So you can't find a causation or even a correlation between those two things being connected.
Yeah. So you've got this cowardice in the police, and you have an unwillingness of even conservative politicians to push the police to enforce the laws that are on the books. So you have a cowardice in the police in the same ways that we saw cowardice in the police in Uvalde. There's a cowardice in the police in Dallas right now for allowing this to happen. There's, this concern of I can't do this because people won't like it. Well, that cowardice is not the fault. You can't scapegoat gay marriage for that. If you are, if you're straight and you think that this was a slippery slope to, if gay marriage was a slippery slope to drag queen story hour and 7-year-olds stripping and giving tips to drag strippers, I would say, look for that. What is that causal link there? You can talk about the social pressures being a slippery slope, but the legal pressures, why was that a slippery slope to the law no longer being enforced? This is the anarcho-tyranny that has been discussed many times before, where there are laws all over the place, but they're selectively enforced. So there's so many laws that govern everything that everybody does, so that at any point you can be targeted by the government for prosecution because you've now broken the law. You're always in violation of the law. However, it's tyranny because they will selectively not enforce the law on their betters. And I think I demand of you to demand better of your law enforcement, that they enforce the laws evenly on everybody, and that there are plenty of laws on the books to protect children. These are all clearly against the law, and the police are just not enforcing it. But that's not my fault. So I hate hearing commentators talk about it like, oh, well, it's so simple. If only the gays couldn't get married, then we wouldn't have these people raping children anymore. And it's like, well, no, I mean, maybe if you just enforce the law, maybe that would take care of that too.
It really is a problem that they are making the association, whether intentionally or otherwise, that they think that gays are well,
it's just the gay marriage too. It's the I think it's the aspect of the gay marriage and linking it to that. And again, I'm only bringing this up because I've heard it so many times in the last couple of weeks here. And one of the issues with falsely attributing it to that is that it doesn't help solve the problem. It doesn't, if you're wrongly identifying what you think the core issue is. I mean, you do a lot of, root cause analysis, right? In your
right.
job. If you have made the incorrect analysis of what is the root cause and you go and fix that root cause that's wrong, does it fix your greater problem?
No, often it creates more problems.
It does. So again, if anybody wants to go at gay marriage independently, that's fine. That's something that's a topic for debate. I don't think that's beyond debate.
Ooh, I got justification for why you shouldn't be able to marry. I don't want you to be happy.
Well, marriage is gay, so
marriage is so gay.
No. So that can be approached on its own in isolation as a debate topic. I don't see an issue with that. But this linking of the reason why gay marriage shouldn't be a thing is because if we have gay marriage, that means that Dallas police will allow people to strip in front of children.
And if you
it doesn't follow.
Dallas police will arrest you for complaining about it. Yeah, that's not caused by gay marriage.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I just want to throw that in there because it's always frustrating. I think it's just. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think gay marriage is fine, just that Fox should not be allowed to be married because
Gay
there's
marriage
no
is
way
gay,
we can't allow you to have any semblance of happiness because it's not in the contract.
I don't think any marriage should be legal.
I think marriage shouldn't be a government thing.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Actually, probably at the end of this, because I have a picture series I want to get through. By the end of this, I think we'll replay Freedom Tunes' original video that they ever posted out because that went viral this week because Freedom Tunes has had some big successes, and he reposted his very first video. And I think it's interesting. We'll bring that back up when we get back to that video here. Alrighty, so. Yeah, so this basically continues on, and there's some other events. We also had recently RuPaul's Drag Show featured, it's a prominent TV show. They featured sponsoring an event where minors, 7 and 8-year-olds, were on stage removing clothing and being given money. This was very similar to an event with Desmond and Is Amazing, which is what his stage name is. He's a 6-year-old at the time, I think, who was at a New York gay bar, and was taking off clothes and being handed money. As has been stated multiple times by multiple people, the definition of stripping does not necessarily involve full nudity. It just involves the removal of articles of clothing, regardless of if there's more clothing on underneath of it. So,
yep.
So yeah, they're coming for your kids, and there's laws in the books to stop that, and those laws should be enforced. As you may know, it is Pride Month, and the rainbow washing has begun. There's so many. Yeah, this is so gay. There's so many good ones, but the one that we decided to focus on was from @USMC.
Okay, I want to point out, I saw this picture, and I thought someone was being a troll online. I thought it was a joke.
I brought it up before the show. I was like, "Yeah, Dyer, did you see that Marine tweet?" And he's like, "Yeah, Fox, you got caught. Like that's a fake tweet. Like it's not real. Like that never happened."
That's so absurd. I would never believe that. Like, come on, look at this picture. Do you think a serious military would put this out there?
Well,
how
the
is this
Marines
encouraging
do
people?
Eat crayons, so it's funny because it looks like crayons. And just to verify here, we are on Twitter. You have @USMC, US Marines, and this is a real tweet.
Now.
Yeah, so this is actually on real Twitter, on US Marines Twitter.
This is not what our uniform looks like, for one. Second, okay, if you were, how is this encouraging people to join, or how is this making our enemies fear us? And second, if you're trying to show inclusion, why would the bullets be the LGBT color?
Yeah, so you can go one of two ways with this. First off, the Marines, as Dyer can attest to, eat crayons. Dyer sometimes has to pack rations for them. And so this is actually an interesting way for snacking on the go, is to have possible crayons shaped like bullets in their helmet that they can just eat at any time. So that's interesting. The other idea is that perhaps, it's often a trope that, for revenge or just pure evil, that you would like carve the name of somebody into a bullet and say, this bullet's for you. So perhaps the Marine Corps has identified gays as their next target.
This looks like a threat against gays.
It does look like a threat against gays. But, I don't think that this is very inclusive. So we decided to help out the Marines by making sure that it was a little bit more inclusive. I don't think that they should just be I don't think they should be targeting anybody, but I don't think that gays should be singled out. So, we have this edit for also lesbians.
There's a lesbian flag. That's a real thing.
Yes, there is a lesbian flag. So, it's
I'm surprised there's not like a fist hitting a face on there.
That's true. That would be funny. We also have the agender, which I believe is the aces or the asexuals, also known as incel gender. So I think that the Marines are going to come for them too.
That's agender and asexual would be ace, I think.
Yeah, that's what I said. What'd you say? We have bisexual. So Marines coming for you too.
Come for everybody. We'll make sure that we're coming for everyone, so it's not picking out just the gays, right?
Exactly. And then of course, because as we know, for some reason it has become a gender or sexual identity is black and brown. Oh no. Oh.
Hey, the light pink and light blue, is that transgender? Because I think, is that also the pedo color, like the map color?
I actually don't know what the map flag looks like, Dyer. I'm not going to lie.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I can look it up for you.
Though. Yeah, let's look it up. See, we make sure that they definitely should be on the bullets.
Oh,
100%.
It's like, oh, I see it. It's this one. It's like, it's got a yellow in it.
Oh, okay. So it does have pink and blue, but it also has yellow in there.
When I was asking you for flag ideas earlier, that would have been a fucking great one. Thanks, Dyer.
Well, I figured it'd be a timely thing to bring up that idea on the show at the end of the show when you have no time to fix it, right?
Yes,
that
exactly.
seems like the best time.
So,
also, I just made you Google it.
So I think that the Marines, their bullets are for everybody. They're inclusive. They're for gay people. They're for bisexuals. They're for trans. And mostly they're for black and brown people, but
I don't think they needed colored bullets to know to shoot
black and brown people
because they're already told to do that all the time.
You drop them in a desert and they know what to do.
I mean, we're not the ones telling them to go to friggin' the Africa and blow up villages there or blow up aid workers in Afghanistan because we had to strike somebody after we got 13 of our guys killed.
Yeah. Also, I didn't name this the LGBTQ progress flag. That's just what it's called, apparently. It's like its official name. This is the progress pride flag. So you've got the conservative pride flag, which is just the rainbow. And then you've got the progressive pride flag.
I can't get over how ridiculous it is to me to have a flag for your sexuality. It is so insanely stupid. Come on.
The flag for my sexuality is the American flag because it
a flag
defends my rights.
Is supposed to indicate in a group that you associate to, that you all have something in common, that you are united by and fighting together for this common purpose. But let's say if there was a straight pride flag, right? Just because someone else has the same sexuality, sexual preference as me, it doesn't mean that they in any way are an ally to me or working towards my purposes, right? Like
most gay people are completely unbearable.
Yeah, they're all terrible.
No, you're supposed to say yeah, and so are a lot of straight people. You asshole.
No. I was kidding. No. All the gay people, mostly fucks, are terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
Just totally unbearable.
Your sexuality means nothing about your character, right? Like, was Hitler was straight?
Maybe.
So was Mao, probably.
Drop in chat what gender identity flag you want to be on the bullets next, and I'll see what I can do. Once I got the template down, it was pretty easy to change them. So,
but yeah, it's so insane. The sexuality affiliation flag does not. You have no unity with the people that also have that sexuality. It's so stupid to have a flag for it.
What if like like when you like enlisted, it's like you have to like order which color flag bullets you want, because you're like, oh, like I hate them the most, like like isn't that a trope? Like, without trying to get kicked off of YouTube, like that's a trope, right? Where like the person that you're targeting, you like carve their name into a bullet, right?
Exactly.
Or like a symbol.
No sense.
Yeah, like a symbol identifying them, or like something like you like personalize the bullet. I mean, like that was a thing in World War II. We wrote the names of cities on the bombs. Like I believe the atom bombs, like they had the names of the cities and like the people on them. And we dropped carpet bombs on Japan when we attached the medals. They gave us like these like peace medals like several years previous that were like kind of like placating us or whatever. And we taped those medals to carpet bombs and bombed Japan with them. I mean, you personalize the weaponry that you're using. That's a common trope. I can't be the only one that noticed that.
Yes, and if I were gay and I was looking at the original image and saw that, like, well, shoot, it looks like this is a threat.
Yeah, I do see that as I'm a tad bit concerned about the U.S. Marines. So, I mean, if the Marines are gonna like get back to like, I don't know, not being woke, I guess I'll take the L. But just come on, guys, come on. The Air Force also posted a tweet that I don't actually have right now, but it was equally absurd and is apparently very far out of regulation uniform dress.
It was a female airman in a blues dress, and she was saluting, and her arm was all colored in the rainbow flag colors, which is out of regs. You can't have a tattoo covering your entire hand like that.
Yeah, I also can't seem to find it on short notice. I should have found it beforehand. But there's a Stone Toss comic where a drone is bombing some brown people, and then they're kind of upset about it. And then in the next slide, the same drone, but it's got the trans flag on it and it says BLM. And the brown people getting bombed are like, oh, like, thank God it's not racist or something.
We actually didn't see one from the Navy. I wouldn't be surprised if they had one.
Yeah, so of all the branches, surprisingly, the Navy was the least gay for the opening of Pride Month, which is, I mean, maybe they just don't feel like the need to advertise.
Pride Month is not over yet. Give them time. I'm sure they will outshine us by the end.
Yes. Great. All right.
They're really good at polishing knobs.
Doors, obviously. Alrighty. So what else do we got here? That's it. That was it on that. Do you want to watch that funny?
Let's watch that video and then let's call it quits with that.
Okay. Let's see here.
I think we dug the hole deep enough.
I agree. Let's see here. You can keep talking while I find this.
Okay. Anyone want to take bets on what the Navy post will be? I think we've got a rainbow colored airman and rainbow colored bullets. What could
I think?
I mean,
a like actual advertisement for the Navy, and like that's just all they need.
I mean, aren't the Marines kind of the Navy though?
I don't know. I just think I think the Air Force is silly because like the Army has their own planes and their own boats. Yeah. And then the Navy has their own planes, and they also have the Marines and the SEALs, which are a land force. And then the Space Force has also planes and also boats, and then the Air Force only has planes. You're totally redundant.
We have some vehicles, mostly just Humvees, and I think I saw a patrol speedboat once. Does that count?
All right. Here is Freedom Tunes, who's a very good channel you should follow, and he makes funny political cartoons. But this was his first ever cartoon, and it was very funny.
Yes.
Man, there's so much stuff to do. I wish I wasn't such a lazy asshole and someone could come hold my hand and do it all for me.
Have no fear! The social contractor is here!
Oh boy, the social contractor? What's your power?
I build and buy things without your consent, regardless of whether or not you want them. And then I expect you to pay for it when I'm done.
Well, that sounds like a horrible superpower.
I noticed your car was broken, so I hired a repairman!
Oh, well, thank you.
I also noticed your roof was leaking, so I hired a roofer!
Well, that was pretty thoughtful, thanks.
And finally, I noticed that you didn't have any cats. So I ordered you 6,000 tons of cat food.
Why the f*** do I need 6,000 tons of cat food?
Well, Jason, I really didn't know that you hated cats so much. I just really love and want to feed all of them. Also, my best friend owns the cat food factory. Now pay up!
What? Are you insane? I'm not paying for all this!
Oh, you had no problem with me when I was fixing your car and repairing your roof. But the second I dump 6,000 tons of cat food on your property and expect you to pay for it, now I'm being unreasonable.
Dude, get the hell out of here. I'm done with you.
You know, Jason, if you really don't like it, you can move to Somalia. That crazy libertarian Jason. He always did have problems with authority. Yes, indeed. Why don't we have problems with authority? Because we're adults, and paying for 6,000 tons of cat food is part of the deal.
I see that as a wonderful parable about marriage.
What does that have to do with marriage?
Because nobody had a problem when straight people got married and the government gave them benefits, and then all of a sudden it gets expanded, and then now they got a problem with it.
Oh, okay. That was the connection.
Yes.
It was
Whereas
a great video, though.
The libertarian view of it, and actually the classic originalist view of marriage is that the government has no place in it.
Exactly.
Yes.
There is no point.
Institutional marriage is a relatively recent. Legal marriage is a relatively recent invention. It's 1900s. There's certainly recognition of it, but as a legal object that the federal government maintains is relatively new.
Think about this: the idea that the government can tell you, no, you're not married.
Yes, isn't that crazy?
That's fucking insane. That's like, the government has no interest in determining whether you are or not married and what the contracts, so the contract between those two people is, what the agreement is, how they want to live their lives. The idea that they can be that involved in the nitty gritty of your life is insane, and that your benefits as a citizen are determined on your marital status is crazy. I'm surprised people are just so okay with it. It's like one of those things that, like, I've gone my entire life just completely dumbfounded that people just accept as being normal. Like cutting boys' foreskins off. Like, what if this just everyone's okay with this? What the fuck's wrong with society?
Yeah, so like that's like another one too, where it's like, oh well, I want the government to like allow, like, make a special like a literal carve out for that as an exception for an unnecessary medical procedure that you're allowed to perform on your children. And then all of a sudden the trans operations, those sneak in too. And no one had a problem with it when you're cutting off just part of the dick. And now it's a problem when you cut off all the dick. So, that's where, it's a mistake to have the government endorse things that you want to do. That's not the government's job. And when you do that, that's the slippery slope. It might take 10 years or 50 years, but it does eventually come back to haunt you. And I don't think that any of it should be endorsed or even necessarily protected in that sense. We live in a... it's the negative rights. So America has negative rights. We were founded on the idea of negative rights, which is that the government has a bunch of things that it's not allowed to do to you. Whereas most countries, they give you rights. So in America, we believe that we have the inalienable right as just a conscious being in the universe to own a firearm. That's the Second Amendment. Whereas other countries, if you have an amendment or if you have a firearm, it's because you were given that right by the government, and the government can then take away that right. In America, you have the right to do certain things, and the government doesn't have the right to take it away from you because the government didn't give it to you in the first place. So we have a lot of things in the government that have been transformed into positive rights, where the government now gives you the right. It was voted to take away the right and then selectively give it back to certain people. And that has caused a lot of problems in a lot of different areas of our society.
I really wish my wife had been recording, because she records so much of our life. Wish she was recording when the doctor asked me if I wanted to have my son circumcised. It was a question I was not expecting the doctor to ask me at that time, and I asked the question back to the doctor, saying, "Excuse me, sir. This is, by the way, it's a captain in the military. You're asking me right now for permission to cut off a small bit of my son's penis." He says, "Well, no, I'm talking about circumcision." "No, sir, you do not have my permission to cut any part of my child off after it's born." Say it back to me. It's very important that you understand that I'm not okay with you removing any portion of my baby.
If you want to know how circumcision is a slippery slope to transgender surgeries, John Money's experiment, where he experimented on twin boy children, only took place because one of them had a botched circumcision, and John Money was then basically abducted them and treated one like a girl and made them have sex with each other as children. And so that all started because of circumcision. So if we want to make tenuous links between certain things as a slippery slope, then that would be one I'm doing.
Wow.
Yes.
That was not a direction I thought it was going to go.
That's what I'm here for, Dyer. I mean, I'm here to provide directions that you wouldn't think of. Otherwise, the show would be boring.
I don't think we're ever at risk of the show being boring, depressing, and scary. For
Dyer,
sure.
What is your when you go to the store to buy fingernail polish to paint your bullets that you put on your helmet, which colors are you going to use? What's your favorite colors?
I like blue.
You like blue? like a happy blue? Maybe you could do a happy little green, like this little trees over here. Yeah, a happy tree. Maybe it's got a little friend, so a little white bullet next to it. That's a happy bullet.
I etch a peace symbol into all my bullets.
Because that's what you want to happen when it hits its target as pieces.
The forever peace. I want peace so badly, and I don't mind how many people I need to maim or kill to get it.
All right. Tay Iflin, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. YouTube chat says, leave boys' dicks alone, please. I agree. That's pretty much the moral of the story. That's the only law that we need, and it would solve a lot of problems. Just leave the penises of small boys alone. And I think that would solve a good half. I mean, I don't want to go like crazy, but I'd say half of the cultural problems right now. If that was just like a law where it's like, this is like total non-starter, like to do anything with a little boy's penis, it's just a total non-starter. I think that would solve a lot of the problems.
We need the leave Brittany alone guy, but the sub in dick or boy's penis every time it's Brittany. Leave him alone. Anyways, it's been fun, guys. Thank you for being involved and contributing to the show. We've loved commenting with you guys. We actually had a good number of people watching across all the platforms. Please do try to follow us on DLive or Rumble, because YouTube sucks. Giant donkey dick. So, yes, I saw it. It was gross. I was only a little turned on. Anyway, so let's go, guys. We'll see you guys next show.
That was the strangest show. Alrighty. See you guys.
We had worse.
Signing off.